Order up! Grab your meal to go, because we're back at the Fixed Ops Roundtable Route 66 road trip event.
Take a pit stop and pick up a copy of the Fixed Ops magazine panel up next.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine, and today we have an exciting group with us. Ron Overs has assembled the best in fixed operations and dealerships. Ron Overs, thank you so much for putting this panel together.
Thank you, Sarah. This should be a great time once again.
Well, Ron, I'll let you take it from here. I know you've got some questions for everyone, and we are looking forward to seeing what curveballs you'll throw us today.
Thanks, Sarah. Really appreciate that. You know, I think that's one of the tricks with this, right? You see so many podcasts online that, you know, they're given the questions in advance, right? So they can prepare themselves and take them. That's not happening here. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to catch these guys completely off guard and see if we can catch them, find out what they're really doing in their lives and what's going on. So the first question really is, here we are at the end of January, and want to know what your plan is for the first 90 days of this year. Okay. And don't tell me it's the same as what you did last year, because that's not good enough. Okay. I'm your boss at the moment, and that just won't get it done. If you want a fat check at the end of the year, it better not be the same results as last year. So what are you going to do to sharpen your pencils, get a little more, squeeze another ounce out of that orange? What are you going to do to make it all happen? Tully, how about you? Let's start it out there on the West Coast.
We are super excited about 2025, and it couldn't come better. We just had our big, huge celebration of last year and looking forward to what's happening in 2025. And our slogan is, be the best you can be in 2025. When you come off an incredible, great year, when you're doing everything, I would say not perfect, but damn near, right? 2025 has some great, awesome challenges. How do we take it to the next level? How do we ask every one of our greatest asset, our employees, how they can take it better and be the best they can be? How can our technicians produce an extra half an hour, make that extra recommendation? How can a parts person make sure we get right up that part and get that part to the technician within 5 seconds, right? How do we do those things better? But it starts with everybody believing that we can do better than last year. Then we can make more money for them and their family. So we are super bullish on 2025.
Fantastic, Tully. You know, and that's what I hear a lot of people saying, you know, I had a great year last year. And it's like, big deal. We already spent that money. So tell me, what are you going to do? What are you going to do for next year? Okay. So how's it go? Sean, what's happening in Wisconsin?
Well, first of all, it's a very unsnowy Wisconsin winter. I'll tell you that so far. Tully have more snow than we do. No, so I got to tell you guys, 2024 was a good year, Ron, and we, you know, a 30% increase. We're proud of that, but we have shifted gears in 25. For us, it's hours, CSI, and parts. In that order, by the way, that's our focus this year. Hours, CSI, and parts. Tully and I spent a couple hours together, a long couple hours, and I got to tell you, we have changed our focus. We're off the hours per RO. We're off that whole kick. That's gone. We're all focused on the hours. CSI, and Ron, you and I have shared a conversation or two. Everybody's focused on CSI now. It's all about the customer again. All right, it's not about retention, because listen, as you said, we've spent the money. We've proven what we can make, but we got to make sure we're bringing it back, as Tully says, the repeat referral business. And everybody knows that John and I have had a very long relationship, and John's tuned in the stores. Guys, parts is back. Parts is an issue again. I mean, we're dealing with parts that are broken, that there is no ETA and there's no manufacturer date. Like, when do you tell a client and keep a client happy on a $120,000 Chrysler vehicle that their car's broken, there's no part coming? I mean, these aren't Land Rovers, as Tully talks about. Guys, these are Chryslers. These are people's grocery getters, and they don't have fixes for them.
Wow. And you're right. It's a new year with new problems, new opportunities to challenge ourselves. And yet at the end of the day, you know, being your boss today, you know, so what? Get me some results. Okay. So, you know, that's, you know, basically, you know, what the reality is. And you're exactly right. I was talking to someone the other day They were talking BDC type things, and they said, you talk about defection. Well, it starts right from there, right? You want real defection, when they can't pick up the phone and call you, you know what they do? They defect. They go somewhere where someone picks up the phone. It's really quite simple. And, that's where they go. So it doesn't matter what aspect of the business it is. Here in fixed operations, we've got to deliver, and we've got to deliver early and make it go. So the first 90 days are got to do. You win the race by being in the race the first 90 days.
Yes.
And making it happen. Scott, living the dream in the desert. What's happening out there?
That's right. It's a little cooler and windy today, but it's not too bad. We'll suffer through it. May only get up to 60. But very excited about 2025. It's going to be a great year. 2024 finished out very well, and looking forward to bigger and better things in 2025. We're going to focus on hours, kind of like Sean said. And to do that, we're going to go back to the basics, walk-arounds, MPIs, make sure and do a lot of training on both of those, and just get those hours up, because that's what we produce, and that's what we need to do. And then customer satisfaction too is another huge one. If you give the customer an extraordinary service experience, they're going to recommend you, and word of mouth advertising is absolutely the best there is out there. So you just can't pay for that. You've got to earn it, earn the right to serve them again and again. So that's going to be our focus. Again, more training on that. And we've got a really great team here, just going to work to do everything we can to get to the next level for 2025.
Absolutely. And you're going to see a great article in the January-February issue of Fixed Ops Magazine by Sean Kingery about CSI. And you know what? It's going to be something you're going to need to read twice to make sure you don't miss any piece of it. It's that good. So I look forward to sharing that with everyone in just a couple of weeks. So that should be a lot of fun. Ed Roberts, hanging out in, Utopia, St. Augustine, Florida. So how you doing?
Excellent. Glad to be here. How about you?
Doing great. In the same environment. Doing great.
Yes. So what's new for us is obviously I have a large team, and last month we had our priorities meeting where we went over our 24 priorities and set priorities for 25. So every one of my department managers has at least one priority per quarter going forward. So I'll just give you a couple of them.
Okay.
And then we'll elaborate on a few. And we'll show the audience what some of these guys are talking about with hours. But one of them is our rental car utilization. I want to make that more of a profit center. We got a huge opportunity to turn that into opportunity for us, as well as increase our CSI. Our video utilization. We really put a big focus in 24 on video utilization, and we're hovering around that 70%, but 70% is not good enough. So we have an 85% target by the end of first quarter, and then we'll move up from there. Online appointments. Our customers scream for convenience, and with our DMS and various different things, and with Ford's program, there's all kinds of roadblocks that comes into play there on how can we set up an online appointment. And last year we danced at about 4%, and we know that our customers want better than that. They want to be able to go to the phone. They don't want to have to pick up the phone and call us. They want to be able to touch the screen a few times and have an appointment. So far. Through January, we're at 38%. So we're making some progress there. But 38% isn't where we want to be. I think we should be somewhere in the 70%. We don't know what the demand is there yet. We feel like we can get there. And then parts delivery to the bay. We have never focused on that for any long period of time. We've brought someone in to do that, then we end up moving them up and putting them in another role and growing that person and not replacing that person over time. And so we got some opportunity there. And then for the audience, as these guys are talking about focusing on the hours, and if you just listen to that and chase it, if we increase, and this isn't talking hours per RO, this is increasing the technician. In a store our size, and yes, the audience may not have a store this size, but just from our size standpoint, if I can increase every technician 1/10, 6 minutes every day by not having to travel back and forth to parts, it's $1.4 million of revenue annually. So that is 1/10. So let's say, well, I'm not as big as he is. Well, let's say you're a third the size of me. That's still almost $500,000 in total revenue. So increase in efficiency is huge for us. And there's a huge opportunity. We've taken most of 23 and 24. Our time to get into service was about 6 weeks here at this store. And we're down to about 2.5 weeks. Still not good enough. I want it to be today or tomorrow, but those are some of the things that we're going to do to get there.
Sounds like you got some challenging goals and great goals. Those are all awesome. They really are. They make sense. I was talking to one person with a new AI type product, and they were saying, if the customer calls you, you failed. Okay. You should have already texted them and said, hey, our telematics tells me that you need an oil change. And hey, we called you first. If a customer is calling you, there's a problem. We should have taken care of this well before that. And, you're absolutely right. So, to get on the phone and get danced around to 3 different people before someone wants to make your appointment, forget it. Who wants to do that anymore? I mean, my dental hygienist doesn't do that. Okay. I get this pretty lady on my text messages says, hey, Ron, haven't seen you in a while. Want to come in for a teeth cleaning? It's like, sure. Sounds great. So, I mean, and that's, why can't we do that with an oil change? I mean, it really is something we need to just emulate what's being done in other industries to make sure that, it all gets done and works. Absolutely. So, John, what are you working on these days? Mr. Fairchild?
Well, I appreciate it, Ron, and thank you for having me on your panel. And as we step into 2025, guys, the service department's role in the dealership's profitability and customer experience has never been more critical. And yet far too often when I'm in a dealership day in and day out, the leaders and team members are caught in the whirlwind of what I call the whirlwind of a relentless cycle of reactive task, firefighting, if you will. And so the year ahead holds a tremendous potential for all of us, but potential does not deliver results. Guess what does? And you probably, if you've ever heard my mouth open, this word has come out. Execution is what delivers results. And, I think the big picture theme for 2025, if you grapple with it for a moment, has got to be progress over perfection. So are we aiming to fix every issue in 1 month? No. But can we make incremental improvement and drive consistent execution through high impact activities? And there's really 3 things that I feel like will take you there on a big picture level. And I can certainly drill down into these, but number 1 is focusing on lead measurements. What things are we doing, not doing in earnest, or we don't do them at all, that will lead to a predictable, better outcome. Number 2 is creating, recreating, revamping our accountability rhythms. So as you've heard me say before, more than likely, if you've ever heard me talk, is that any training, anything that you do will rapidly evaporate if there's not a rhythm or a cadence of accountability. And you know what? Accountability isn't necessarily clobbering people over the head, although it may come to that. But at least initially, it is coaching. And are we having our weekly WIG sessions? Wildly important goal. Are we having our daily stand-ups, our daily huddles? So that's the number 2 is creating, maintaining your accountability rhythms. And, number 3, I think is so important that's overlooked in so many environments because so many people feel like the financial motivation is all that people really bite into, but it's not, guys. We got to celebrate our visible wins. We have to track and recognize small wins, and we have to publicly shout them from a mountaintop. And, this isn't about quick fixes. It's about building repeatable systems and sustainable growth.
Great words to be said there, John. The reality is that just that is progress over perfection, right? I mean, nobody does it right first, right? I used to watch Magic Johnson make a foul shot and shake his head and the ball went in. Okay. But that's not where he was aiming. Okay. He's aiming for the front of the back of the rim. It hit the front of the rim. That's not where he was aiming. Okay. So it wasn't perfect, but it got the job done that time. We all need to get better through, just perfecting our craft as we move along. Well, Mr. Drzezinski, how's Buffalo, New York, Rochester, New York? Things going well up there?
Yeah, Buffalo is very cold right now. So that's why my wife and I got away. We're in Disney World right now, which is not much warmer than Buffalo. I think it's like 40 here right now, but it's better than 6, you know?
No question about it. So what are your plans for the first 90 days here?
So a couple of things. It's funny, there's a wise man that we see in this panel all the time that will tell you it's all about the hours. And if you notice, so if you're a service manager and you're wondering where to start and what your goals should be, if you notice, all of these people talked about it's hours, right? That's all that we have to sell. We buy time from our technicians, we sell it to our customers. We want to buy as much of that time as possible to have as much inventory to sell. So for us, the two things, the areas that I'm focusing to be able to get those hours, it's mastering video, right? So we launched video at all 40 stores last year. And coming into the first quarter, I've got some pretty aggressive goals for making sure that the video utilization is up there. We've got some great contests where we're watching videos. I've made video a part of our President's Club. In fact, the reason that we're here, we've got about 200 employees with their families that are here at Disney as well, because they were our top performers, technicians, advisors, salespeople. So we're here hosting a trip for them. So video this year is going to be included in those categories for the best video, the best utilization. So that's step one. Step two is putting efforts into training our service advisors, right? We often forget that they are professional salespeople and they need to be treated as such. So there's going to be ongoing training. We have trainers. I have different sources. I found some outside products that we're using to help do that, but really putting a focus into those service advisors, giving them the tools they need to be able to produce the hours for our technicians. Because the amazing thing is, with hours sales comes part sales. So in order to help that parts department, we got to sell hours. That's just how it works. The mantra for the team for 2025 is find a way to say yes. We heard almost everybody here talk about it in this panel. That 4 to 6 weeks to get an appointment is not going to cut it. The ride here, in fact, the gentleman that was our driver has a fleet, a large fleet of vehicles. He gets an oil change on each one of those vehicles every single month because of the miles that he puts on it running back and forth from the airport. And he will not touch a dealer because they always want him to make an appointment. And his thing is, well, if I need an oil change, I need it now. So I'm going to go to the place that can get me in where I just show up versus call and go, oh, no, 2-3 weeks. So for us, I'm hearing that. We're hearing it loud and clear from our customers. We have the reputation. We just need to find a way to make it convenient.
Sounds like you got some great challenges and some great opportunities, right, for growth.
We're excited. We're excited to get on it.
Now, that's going to be great. I don't know if you noticed over my shoulder here, but there's the cover of the pre-NADA issue, the November-December issue, 2024. And Sir Thomas is on the cover. And he wrote us an amazing article that if you're going to the NADA show, you need to take a look at this, because it'll really help you game plan, your visit to there to make sure that you're not just wasting time. We'll all walk away with our trinkets and trash, but the question is, did we walk away with some information that's going to help us to do our jobs better? And thank you, Thomas. Really appreciate it. Great article, and you look spiffy in that cover. Really spiffy. Nice job.
It's pre-beard.
Yeah. Well, you're totally winterized now. That's kind of a spring fling cut.
Yeah.
So you're looking good. So thank you again. Appreciate all of that. Mr. Sabino, who is on the September-October issue for his mobile service. Jim, tell me about what your plans are for for the first 90 days of 2025.
Sure, Ron. Thanks. And hello to everybody. Just listen, trying to keep the momentum of 24 rolling into 25. 24, as pretty much everyone on the panel has stated, was a really good year. There you go, Ed. Very nice. Thank you. Our focus is going to continue on customer experience. We're going to try and elevate that as high as we can. Customer experience is something that is so important, and everything else follows. If a customer is happy doing business with you, they will certainly continue to do business with you, and enhance the hours and the part sales, and everything else will follow. But the first and the main ingredient is to have a high level of a customer experience doing business with your establishment. And back to Tom, what he says about making an appointment and stuff. The guy stays away from dealers because you have to make an appointment 2-3 weeks out. That right there, that's lost business on a simple, which should be honestly a drive-in. It should be an express treated service or a mobile service and or a pickup and delivery. I mean, the customer experience is by far the most important ingredient through this whole process. Okay, we're also going to challenge the status quo. So we have, again, we have a lot of great performing high-level employees. And we have a couple employees, whether it's, porters, advisors, technicians, whatever the case is, parts counter people, shipping and receiving clerks, that are just kind of doing their jobs and doing the jobs okay. We're going to challenge the status quo and try and elevate them on an individual basis to try and bring them up to the next level and get more efficiency out of them, get more production. And hopefully, we're a big promoter from within, so we like to do that. So if you're better at your skill and you improve, we want to try and get you to the next level. And that's going to be one of our main focuses in 25 is the status quo is challenged for the better of the employee and the better of the company. So it's a win-win for both. And then again, every customer facing employee, customer experience is paramount. It's paramount. Saying, like Tom just said, saying yes more than saying no, finding a solution, finding an option. The word no, we want to try and remove from our vocabulary. And if we can't do it, we want to try and come up with a solution that works. Again, customer experience, customer satisfaction, it all ties in to selling more hours, to selling more parts, to retention of your customers, et cetera, to keep them in the loop. So when it comes time to purchase or lease a new vehicle, that they want to continue doing business with your organization. And that's what 2025 is going to look like here at All American.
Sounds fantastic, Jim. It really does.
And also, Ron, I love that these are not rehearsed, that we don't know until you ask the question. That is one of my favorite parts of doing your panel. And it's such a privileged panel. Just look at this coast to coast talent you've assembled here, and not knowing what's coming at you is one of the best parts of this. It really makes, it gives credit to everybody in the panel that hey, I can answer this question, no problem. Throw your best pitch at me. I'm going to hit it.
Absolutely. That's the way it should be. My sons will tell you this because I annoyed them to death growing up. I have 2 boys. And it was like, we are not in the trying business. Okay. Our job is not to push against the wall. It's to move the wall. Right. Okay. So move the damn wall. All right. So this is what we're going to do that. And, right. You have to do that we have to set plans. We have to do all these things. I love the idea of saying, we got to find the yes, right. When a customer, I don't care what business you're in, right? It costs too much, right? I don't need it right now. I don't have the money. Okay. Overcome the objection and move forward. Figure out what that is to take care of them. I don't have the part. Yep, you don't. Okay, so what are we going to do? We got to come up with a solution because the answer isn't, I'm sorry, we're going to put you in a rental car for 90 days, Yeah, no, we're not. Okay, we don't have that option. We got to come up with a solution. And it's difficult, but a lot of people are always, the old world was just explain your problem to them. The new world is figure out how to solve the problem somehow, some way, make it go away. And customer experience is what it's all about, right? Because, this may be the last oil change you ever do for them. This may be the last tire rotation you ever do for them if you don't do it right. I mean, no pressure. I just want to let you know that if you muff it up this time, it may not happen again. Yep. I've got personal experience with Ed Roberts' group there. He's creating terrible congestion on the roads in northern Florida. I mean, there are so many of these white and blue vans running around, okay, that they're going to have to put additional stoplights, right, just to control the traffic. But I'm telling you, as far as a customer experience, it's amazing, right? You call up, and by the way, Ben, my little Lincoln's been in there and said, hey, tires are on the wrong corners, need them switched around, I need the wiper blades switched and whatever else needs to be done to, take care of that stuff, right? And I called them up and they're like, well, Ron, is it okay if we bring a truck by tomorrow morning? And I'm like, that might be too soon. No, all right, let's do that. All right, tomorrow morning's great. And, and it happens. But customer experience is so important today in this business. And Sean and I were talking as well about this, that the CSI really has become something that's not just hey, I bought a car and were you happy with your experience? It's every touch of the dealership. It's got to be that way.
Agreed. Very much.
Sarah, do we have any more time or are we running out? How are we doing?
You know, we've learned a lot from these gentlemen today, Ron, and I would be remiss if we continued to push on, because I know we could probably go for a full hour with all of the amazing insights and questions that these experts have, in their back pocket for this year. But, Ron, I'm also excited because there's a new issue coming up this month too. Could you share us a little bit more about what we can expect with the next issue?
Well, I'll tell you what, there's always these great secrets coming out with these issues. And, the reality is, and I explained this to Sean one day, I said, if you had a football stadium, well, not the Green Bay Packers stadium, but I mean, a college stadium size of people reading looking at you, and you had something to say to them, you better think twice about what you're going to say to them, right? Because it's going to sting. It's going to stick with them. And, that's what the magazine does. It's not a flash. It's hey, they're going to read it. They may reread your article 2 or 3 times to really get the meat out of it. And that's what we have coming up with this next issue, is some real good articles on things that really will help you move your business forward in the first 90 days. So if you haven't spent all the energy that this great group has in making plans, well, you're going to have some great ideas on how to really launch your business this year, get that extra, tenth of an hour, get your CSI where it needs to be, get the billable hours where they need to be, and make sure that you are using all the tools that are out there. We have some amazing new products and out there in the marketplace for fixed operations, and you're going to read about them and hear about them in our magazine. It's going to be an exciting first issue, and the next 3 actually got some really good things coming up.
And Ron, just a last little nugget on Fixed Ops Magazine, but you're open to getting articles from individuals that haven't contributed thoughts yet. Is that, how does one go about applying or submitting an article to you?
Absolutely. I'm always looking for great articles, and you don't have to be an English major graduate of Harvard to get in there. Now most of these guys have, okay, they got all that back pedigree, but some of them don't, okay? And we've got great editors to help turn your articles into great articles. But all you have to do is send ron@fixedopsmag.com. It should be on the trailer on the bottom there. A note, say, hey, Ron, I got a great thought for an article that would really help us. There we go. Thanks, Tom. And it really will help, because, at the end of the day, we want to hear from you. We want to hear some success stories. We don't have a complaint section, okay? So don't send me any complaints about anybody, because I don't publish those. But what I do publish, okay, is success stories, things that you've tried and have worked that you want to share with your buds in the industry. And I'm looking forward to more and more of that in the coming year.
Everyone, Ron Overs, the publisher of Fixed Ops Magazine, the leader in information for our industry. If you want to subscribe, just go to fixedopsmag.com. Ron's information is down below in the ticker as well. You can contact him directly if you want to contribute and be part of this incredible publication. But on behalf of Teddings, everyone, Ron Overs, Tully Williams, Sean Kingery, Scott Gregg, Ed Roberts, John Fairchild, Tom Brzezinski, and Jim Sabino are with us today on the Fixed Ops Magazine panel. We have incredible stuff coming up at Route 66 Road Trip. Stay tuned.
Do you have a great product you want to get in front of auto dealers across the country, and specifically their fixed ops departments? Their service, parts, and body shop. For over 15 years, Fixed Ops Magazine has been putting service-related products like yours in front of franchise auto dealers across the country. There simply is no better way to reach every dealer in the USA all at once. Hi, I'm Ron, the publisher of Fixed Ops Magazine, which is both a digital at fixedopsmag.com and print magazine that reaches out to over 38,000 subscribers who influence what products are purchased in the over 16,000 dealers across the country. Fixed Ops Magazine may even publish your article about a topic you are an expert and have a real passion for in this industry. Every article has the author's contact info so they can reach you. Write an article, run an ad, and an e-blast. We call that our bundle for success. You won't believe how great a deal it is. So to get started, call, text, or email me and I'll tell you more. We are 100% devoted to the franchise stores so we don't waste your time or money. We are laser focused on your prospects. Fixed Ops Magazine, the #1 way to get your product in front of auto dealers today. www.fixedopsmag.com. Ron at fixedopsmag.com. 714-803-5476. Fixed Ops Magazine, the #1 way to get your product in front of auto dealers today.
From day one, my owner has treated me so well, like one of the family. When it was time for my first oil change, she checked out bgfindashop.com. Over 50,000 dealerships and shops use high-quality BG automotive products like MOA Oil Fortifier to help me run better, longer. When you maintain your car, it'll take care of you too. So visit bgfindashop.com. Their auto experts know which BG products will keep your car happy. Be good to your car with BG. Visit bgfindashop.com.
This diner is serving up the best warranties in the biz. Please welcome David Reinecke from Automotive Warranty Network.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Ted Ings with Sarah Vantine, and we are here at Bozard Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine with Ed Roberts and David Reinecke of Automotive Warranty Network. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Ed, thank you for having us as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming out. This has been quite an event.
Yep. And David, thank you for all that you do in the industry. Thank you for being involved with the Fixed Ops Roundtable as a Gold Advisory Board member and helping steer the direction of what we do here.
Well, thank you for all you do, and thanks for having me out, and thanks for bringing the community together, and Ed, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Sarah, I can't think of any more important topic right now than a warranty and all the focus on warranty now currently and going into the new year and what dealers need to do to, be proactive.
You're so right, Ted. The level of technology that is happening in our industry on vehicles, and then also just all of the different developments when it comes to compliance on these cars. It's becoming so much more important to really be paying attention to these pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. All that, and also warranty labor rates are going up and getting closer to customer pay. So I think that in parts costs, manufacturers are really focused on coming in and auditing dealerships because our average store does about $200,000 a month in warranty, $2.4 million a year, and that's a huge revenue loss for the manufacturer. So I think they're really going to focus on coming back and auditing this work and inspecting it. So I think it's very important the dealers inspect the work that's being done on a daily basis to make sure that they're safe when auditor comes in.
And that was part of the conversation that we had last night over dinner, with David and with Jeremy, and warranty. And of course, you've got also a warranty component, a large one, on the mobile work that you do there at Bozard.
Absolutely. And David hit it, it's compliance. I mean, we got several people that does warranty here, and it's not just what they do to process it, it's what the technicians do as well. And the money that the manufacturer spends with us to be able to maintain their vehicles, to have to give that back because we didn't dot an I or cross a T doesn't mean that we took it ineffectively. It means that we may not have followed the procedures exactly right. It is hard to get that money back for, and so it really helps to stay compliant and have all those elements and have something that stays in tune with what the elements are.
Yeah, it could be as simple as a missed punch time, poor technician comments, missing test codes. So all that stuff is very important and can cause the claim to be charged back. So I really encourage dealerships to inspect that process and make sure that their warranty's compliant. it's not a fun topic, but
it's part of it. I mean, audits is the reality of the business of the world that we live in today, and when they come in, as they come in, you want to make sure that you have dotted the right I's and crossed the right T's, so that's not nearly as painful as it could be. And it's also reassurance to your people that, okay, we are doing the right thing.
Yep.
David, your company, Automotive Warranty Network, works with thousands of dealers. You are the largest in the nation by far in terms of handling these warranty, processing claims and putting them into the manufacturer. What are you seeing? Are you seeing that there is increased focus now on making sure that everybody is compliant on the dealer side? What are you seeing? Because you probably see it ahead of time.
I think there's a large focus on making sure that dealers are compliant, but there's also a focus on going back and checking dealers to make sure they're not taking more than they're entitled to. So yeah, that's a big one.
So Ed, dealers really have to insulate themselves and protect themselves, and look within and make sure. Like for an example, David does some mock audits at Automotive Warranty Network and taking advantage of things like that.
We do mock audits, so we do them for our clients. One of the things that we do internally is we audit our employees, so we make sure that the work that they're doing for our clients is that's the same thing you could do if you had an in-house warranty administrator team. So checking those employees, and then we do mock audits the way the manufacturer would. So we actually can go in, even if you're not one of our clients, we can perform a mock audit the way the manufacturer would and tell you what the loss would be today if the manufacturer were to come in and help you tighten up the processes and tell you what the most common occurrences are that we found in your store. So that's one thing that we can help you with.
And like David said, it can help you with the processes, because that's a lot of times what it is. It's the lack of a process that catches some of those things. And the last thing you want to do is the manufacturer say, hey, you didn't do this, you owe me this. One is very preventable. If it's a process change or a process implementation or a process enhancement, catching it early, being proactive rather than reactive is always so much better.
And David, one of the things that has been increasing in our industry, we've seen all of these recalls related to software, and technicians have to have the right certifications to be doing the work, and the cars just keep getting more and more progressed in the technology that they're equipped with. How important is it to really have these pieces in place when it comes to recalls?
As far as the
just looking over with the audits and like making sure that all of the pieces are in place and the right technician is doing the right jobs.
That's always very important. To the best of my knowledge, I don't know that a lot of recalls get audited, but I always tell our clients to follow the same policies and procedures that you would with the normal repair. But it's very important to make sure you have the right technician, the certified technicians, especially with Ford. I mean, you have to be certified for EVs, right? Different certifications for transmissions. And once you submit that claim with the technician number, I mean, obviously you can't change it. So you want to make sure your technicians have all their certifications.
And so like David said, there's a lot of audits that pertains to recalls, but ultimately what I preach to my team a lot is how you do one thing is how you do everything. And if you're off filter on one, you're going to be off on the other. And when they find that you're off there, then that's when they playbook and look a little deeper. But that doesn't necessarily trigger the audit, but it could intensify the audit.
Absolutely.
So compliance is key.
I would imagine, David, that for a dealer to do this themselves, which many have historically done, it's becoming more and more difficult to keep up with the requirements and the compliance that the OEMs require, where you do it on a bigger, you actually scale it and do it on a bigger level.
Yeah.
If you want to speak to us about that.
Yeah, it's a very skilled position. I think a lot of dealers have an old school mentality that it's a data entry position. It's much more skilled than that now. I think it usually takes about a year to 2 years for somebody to learn warranty and to stay proficient at it. So I think it's very important. I always look at like $2.4 million a year. Who do you want handling that work? You want an experienced person. You don't want somebody that's just punching in tickets, submitting warranty, throwing it up the wall to see if it sticks. You want somebody experienced doing that. So,
well, like you said earlier, for the average store, it's $2.4 million a year.
That's average.
Yes. Is that really data processing? I think for all of us as dealers out here that that $2.4 million is a very valid part of our business that we need to make sure that we're doing the right things with. And yes, it's not just data processing. And so if we had that in our mindset, we have to look at it differently because it's a receivable, but it's also income. It's part of the world that we live in the retail world, where we got to take care of our customers as they leave us, because that is also the opportunity that allows us to take care of our customers through the warranty process and make them CP customers later on after they're through the warranty. And if we can't process it correctly, then we're causing them hiccups as well.
And Ted, we're seeing the average age of the vehicles on the road continuing to increase. This is becoming so much more important because all of these cars, there's a lot at play here in fixed operations with people maintaining and servicing their cars.
Yeah, and that's going to continue to increase, I would imagine, as we go through time. David, what are you seeing out there in terms of things that we need to be aware of? You mentioned the compliance, the potential for audits, but this is such a big part of the dealership's fixed operations income. Many dealers say, I don't need the help right now, but then a few months later we hear them calling you, because now they have a need and it's come up. So,
Yep. I would say the biggest things to look for when it comes to audits, the big one right now is one-time use parts. If I could tell dealerships anything to watch for, it's one-time use parts. That's something that the technicians really in the parts department really need to be responsible for, is getting the right parts on the right job and replacing all those parts. It's not up to the warranty administrator to handle the warranty claim at the end and the customer's already on the road. So that's a big one the manufacturers are looking at. So I'd really advise dealerships to look into that process, if not anything.
So I'll speak on that a little bit, because we think out there that, we got good processes, we're in compliance, we do all these things. The one-time use components means that part was designed to only use one time, and it may be a nut on a suspension job that we do or whatever else. Only reuse that nut when it was designed to be used once, and manufacturer can charge the entire job back. So those are the little things that makes the big difference, where you think they may be in compliant, but processes doesn't drive us to compliance.
all right. Everybody, 2 leaders in the industry, Bozard, Ford, Lincoln, and Automotive Warranty Network. Thank you for all you do for the industry. And the same is to you as well. Everybody, I'm Ted Ings. I'm here with Sarah Vantine. We're at Bozard, Ford, Lincoln, and we will be right back.
Automotive Warranty Network is the largest and most experienced manufacturer's warranty claims processing company and warranty resource in the world. We have experience with all manufacturers and have hundreds of talented, experienced warranty administrators that are trained and certified. We work with over 1,000 dealerships in North America and have partnerships with hundreds of dealer groups, including most major publicly held groups. We comply with all the FTC safeguard regulations to ensure your data is protected and the warranty transactions we are making on your behalf are safe. When you partner with Automotive Warranty Network for your warranty claim collection needs, you are assigned an experienced, manufacturer-certified warranty specialist that will work on your warranty repairs on a daily basis in your DMS. Our claims management service is a full warranty claims administration service. From examining the repair for compliance-related issues once the technician is completed with the repair, then properly coding the repair with the proper labor operations in the DMS, submitting the repair to the manufacturer for payment, and also performing the accounting work once the repair is made, by reconciling the warranty schedule and accounting for any discrepancies in payment. During this process, we use our proprietary CARS software to make you aware of compliance issues that you need to be aware of and address to make sure claims stay compliant in the event of an audit. Our software also tracks the frequency of certain compliance issue types and who is responsible for them in your dealership, so we can help your staff better understand their roles and responsibilities in the process and help them perform their job function more efficiently. In addition to warranty claims administration, we also offer a proactive mock auditing service where we can perform an audit the way the manufacturer would, showing you what your exposure would be if the manufacturer were to audit you today, without the real expense of a potentially costly financial loss. During this process, we will ask for the hard copies and supporting documentation for a list of 20 to 50 repair orders, depending on the scope of audit requested. Our auditing team will then analyze the repairs with the same discretion that a manufacturer auditor would and assemble the information in our proprietary software. The result will be a detailed report with the value of the audit and the potential loss. We will break down each issue type by category and dealership personnel associated with each discrepancy, so we can show you the most common problem and who is responsible for them. The report will also have each included repair order in PDF format, marked up so we can show you exactly what is wrong. Each report comes complete with an action plan and a detailed review with the auditor and your staff over Zoom, so you can ask any questions you may have. We also have a team of trainers that can work with your technicians, advisors, and service personnel on what their role and responsibilities are in the warranty process and best practices to make sure everyone is performing to the best of their abilities to ensure the best outcome if the warranty work is to be audited. Our training can be recommended as a result of one of our proactive audits or performed as an a la carte service. If you're looking for the best solution for your warranty claims administration and management needs, Automotive Warranty Network is the solution for you. With over 280 trained and certified warranty administrators, team leads, auditors, and support staff, we have the resources to collect the money you are entitled to in a timely manner and help you retain that money in an audit. Please visit our website to see what hundreds of satisfied clients say about our service, or contact us at info@awninc.com or 303-703-9143.
Follow the signs to our next speaker, Derek Simons at Numa.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Derek Simons of Numa. Ted, this is going to be one of the hot topics at NADA this year.
Sarah, you're so right. And you know very well that the phones are the hot topic at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And there's no company more integral to that than what Derek Simons at Numa is doing right now. Derek, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Ted. And thanks, Sarah. It's always a pleasure to be here with my friends on the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Derek, there's been a lot going on, and we have a lot of new listeners that are tuning in to the Fixed Ops Roundtable and a lot of existing listeners too. Tell us a little bit about Numa and what sets you apart in fixed operations.
So Numa is really unique. Numa is the only platform that is AI powered in automotive that's employing the concept of AI agents. And the AI agent concept is pretty interesting because what that allows us to do, if you think about Numa, Numa is our parent AI. And then depending on what the fixed ops department needs, Numa's able to call up an AI agent. Think of it like as an individual that's working in your staff, in your dealership for you, that actually can provide the same kind of responsiveness that a human can in most instances. So we have AI appointment scheduling agents. We have AI status update agents. We have AI parts counter agents. And so we've built out this really cool framework that allows us to address the needs of what dealers have. So we have an opportunity agent. So a dealership might say to us, hey, look, we need to really focus on acquiring used cars out of the service drive. We're like, no problem. We have an opportunity agent for that. And we have an AI that can actually engage customers that come in for a repair and then can discuss with them the potential of us purchasing the car or upgrading them to a newer vehicle of their choice, right? And then we have a declined service AI agent that's able to look at the repair order from a declined service a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 6 months ago, and communicate with that customer and engage them in regards to getting them back in to get that declined service taken care of. And so there's a lot of cool things that we do with these different agents, and it's really based upon what the dealership needs. So we try and build a customized solution for each dealership that is going to help them achieve their goals. One of the critical things about Numa, I say this all the time, like when I'm talking to our internal team, I can say, we've got the best software in the world, but if we implement it in the wrong way at the dealership, we will fail. So our number one most critical absolutely has to happen thing is for us to understand what the dealer's needs are before we even begin the implementation process. If we haven't established what the dealer's goals are for implementing AI, then we've already failed. And so based on that, we're actually able to build out a custom solution that's tailored to what the dealership needs to achieve the goals that they want. Are they focused on customer satisfaction? No problem. We know how to do that. Are they focused on more dollars per RO? No problem. We know how to do that. Are they wanting to use the opportunity agent to acquire cars out of the service drive? No problem. We know how to do that. So we're able to take that and say, okay, these are tangible goals that you have that we can translate into actions that these AI agents need to take, and we can set the AI on the path to achieve those goals for the dealers.
Derek, one thing I've noticed is that you ask a lot of the right questions and you take the time to listen to dealers. Tell us more. What sets Numa apart when it comes to supporting fixed ops teams? You've told us some of that already.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to the fact that the way that Numa was built, right? And for people that have heard me talk about this before, I apologize, but Numa wasn't built specifically for automotive. Numa was actually built by a team of Silicon Valley tech geniuses that was designed to be able to function in hundreds of thousands of businesses worldwide, not just automotive. And so what that means is the ultimate customization of Numa and the way that we're able to manage what Numa does is so much more flexible than if somebody had this idea is like, oh, I want to build an AI agent that's going to answer phone calls and schedule appointments. When you have that vision, right, you're able to execute on one thing. But what Numa does is it allows us to have flexibility to handle anything that's going on in the service department. And Ted, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but 41% of all the calls that ring to a service advisor as of today are actually customers that are calling for a status update. We all know we failed them at that moment in time, right? If they have to call us for a status update, we've already failed them. And so we have the ability to create these agents that actually preempt that through preemptive status updating and being able to engage that customer on the phone when they call. Because Numa, the unique thing about Numa is that with our integration, which is deep into all of the major players in the DMS space, we're able to know where a customer is in the life cycle. And so the AI is going to act intelligently based upon where that customer is. And so if there's an appointment scheduled, we're going to acknowledge that and be like, hey, Ted, are you calling about the appointment that you have scheduled in 2 weeks? Or if your car's in for service, we say, hey, Ted, I see your vehicle's in for service. Are you calling about a status update, right? And so the AI actually responds differently based upon where the customer is in the life cycle, and that changes the game. Because once you have an AI that's engaging the customer where they want to be engaged, right? They don't want to have something that puts them into a loop and is asking them a bunch of questions. They literally need a response based upon where they are in the life cycle of their ownership. And that's what we're able to provide. So that's a couple of the things that I think are really important. And then I think big picture, I talked about the fact that our origins weren't automotive, but for the last
Someone was at the garage.
Sorry about that. The Alexa decided that somebody needed to let me know they were at the garage. Our origins being non-automotive have put us in a great position that we have ultimate flexibility. But what's happened is in the last 3.5 years, we've answered over 22 million phone calls for dealerships. Wow. 22 million phone calls. Think about that, because now that information, that data, those conversations are what feeds our automotive AI, being Numa, and it's put it in a position where it understands automotive communication very, very well. And so that's what allows our parent AI, Numa, to be very specific when it comes to stuff that's happening with the individual opportunity agents, because we speak automotive.
Derek, a follow-up, if I may, because a lot of our listeners, AI has been a huge conversation at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. We've had a lot of discussion around it. But as you mentioned, not all AI is created equal. There's some that maybe put them into that loop, as you described, where it's just regurgitating responses and it has a very precise response to a certain question. Numa has generative AI, if I understand it right. So what is the difference between AI and generative AI?
So if you look, there's actually there's 3 levels of AI, right? The first level of AI is basically, hi, I'm a computer that's pretty smart and pretty quick, and I understand text and I can transcribe that. And then I have a set amount of responses that I can give. So basically we call this a decision tree. You say this, and if I understand this, then I will respond with this. That's like limited AI that we see a lot of usage in automotive. The second set is when you get into generative AI, which is what we've been working with for the last couple of years. Generative AI is a la ChatGPT, right? So ChatGPT is probably the most famous generative AI player in the market, but generative AI is a much more complicated algorithm that's based upon the AI's understanding of the sum total of the knowledge that it's consumed, which for ChatGPT was up until like November of 2024 is what it's learned. So it knows all the stuff that's out there on the internet, and it's able to respond using that. And so generative AI is a more human-like interaction. And so one of the challenges though with generative AI, and Ted and I talked about this, I don't know if it was the last time or the time before last. One of the challenges about generative AI is that if you just throw generative AI into an application and it does not have the automotive foundation, like what we have with Numa with those 22 million calls, what ends up happening is that the AI and the customer can get outside of the scope of what an automotive conversation could be like. And that's when you end up with a situation like where the guy convinced the AI to sell him the car for $1, right? And so you have to build protections into the system, because generative AI is going to look at it and say, what's the best way to answer this question, right? And so what we do is really important. We understand fundamentally what an automotive conversation should be like, whether it's a text, a web chat, or a phone call. And if the conversation gets outside of 90% of scope for that general automotive path, then we're actually going to tag a human in. So if somebody starts asking our AI, hey, where should I go for lunch? We're going to be like, yeah, no, that's not an automotive question, right? There's something that you're trying to do that I don't want to participate in. And so we're going to tag a human into that conversation. Because again, generative AI is amazing, but generative AI with no restraints and no direction is actually super dangerous. And so we want to moderate, modulate, monitor what that generative AI is actually providing back to the customers. And as long as we can keep it inside that 90% scope, then we're going to use it. And so the next level, which Sam Altman from OpenAI has been talking about, is called artificial general intelligence. And that's truly going to be indistinguishable from humans once we get to that. And he's already teasing that we're going to see something, probably next quarter in regards to that. That's actually a little scary to me. That's the part where I start to get a little bit like, oh no, now we're starting to get Terminator-ish. But we currently, with the generative AI and the way that it's growing as fast as it's growing right now, there's so much more power in generative AI today than there was even 2 years ago. And so we're able to do things right now that we've never been able to do before. In fact, we were talking about the opportunity agent. One of the agents that I talked about, we're releasing a new version of it at NADA, which is in a day or two. So I'm hoping people stop by the booth, 7012. But we are releasing a new version of our opportunity agent that helps dealers schedule appointments when their people aren't available. And the way the new opportunity agent works for this AI scheduling is that when it's talking to the customer, it actually is able to make a decision. Is this customer a customer that would rather text with us? Is this customer somebody that would rather ultimately speak to a human? Or is this a customer that I can actually complete the appointment and schedule it in next time or my Karma or Techion without any human interaction? And so as the conversation progresses, the AI actually makes the decision what path to take. And we have found that that has increased our ability to schedule appointments exponentially, because what we found, and the OEMs were preaching this for a long time, but they've always said communicate with the customer where they want to be communicated with. Meaning, if they want to email, email. If they want to text, text. If they want to talk on the phone, talk on the phone. Right? Well, that's what we found. The AI is able to communicate better with a customer where they want to be communicated with. And I'll tell you what's interesting about the texting is that the people that text with the AI are the ones that have the highest level of satisfaction. You know why? They didn't want to talk to anybody anyway. They just didn't want to talk to people. They'd rather text. So when the AI is texting with them, they're like, yep, 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 yep. And then they book their appointment and they're done. And we see this, like over 66% of the text engagements that we have with the AI result in a scheduled appointment. And it's just, there's no fallout. Even the customers that don't schedule are very receptive when somebody from the dealership reaches out and it's like, hey, were you able to schedule that appointment? We see that it wasn't in the system. And they're like, no, I needed help because I needed to add in a transmission service and I didn't know how to do that. Right. So what we're seeing is that the customer is very engaged when they get met where they want to be. And so if you, and I'm not just shamelessly plugging this, but you can hit Numa.com or you can come by the booth and we can show you how this works. But it's really cool to see the AI meeting the customer where they want to be met. That's pretty interesting.
Derek, fascinating stuff. You and I have talked a little bit about this before. How does Numa solve some of the most pressing challenges in fixed operations? You've told us about some of them, but obviously there are so many, and the phones are so critical to what we do at the dealership.
Yeah. I want you to think about this for a second, Ted. If you think about every call that rings into the dealership, right? There's a crazy amount of customers that call in and hang up because they've already left a voicemail and they still haven't heard back. What we have found is that when we first start working with the dealership, it's not uncommon for a customer with their car in the shop to call 3, 4, 5 times before they actually speak to somebody. Now, every one of those calls requires going through the switchboard, requires a line being tied up, it requires a human to answer when the call rings back on hold, right? All of these calls are really taking time out of the day of not just the person they're trying to reach, but the whole entire dealership operation. And so when we drive down the amount of times that a customer calls versus the number of ROs there are, what we find is that the dealership operations improve across the board. And so our goal is to get every single dealership that we work with to 1.5 calls per customer. So to get them from 4 calls per customer down to 1.5 calls per customer, because we know customers are going to call multiple times. That's just going to happen. But when we see a dealership get to that 1.5 calls per customer, what we start to see is magic. We start to see customer satisfaction going through the roof. Because what does that tell us? It tells us that we are actually taking care of the customer. They call one time, we respond. That's amazing. Anybody that's below 1.5 calls per customer is doing a fantastic job with communication. And communication is the number one indicator of customer satisfaction and customer retention, period. And so when you look at the initiatives that the OEMs have today, almost every single OEM has a retention initiative tied to their fixed operations programs. And so when you see that, you realize we have to start doing things differently. And so the 2 things that we believe that we really help for retention is, number one, we're scheduling appointments for things that fall through the cracks. Because our AI answers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It answers every single call. It gives every single customer the same opportunity to schedule an appointment. How many times have you listened to a recording of an advisor talking to a customer and they never asked for the appointment, right? And how many times have we heard stories about calling a customer back and they'd already gone somewhere else because it'd been 3 hours, right? We live in a microwave popcorn generation, man. If somebody calls and you don't respond in 15 minutes, they're not waiting for you because they've got brand equity with the bow tie and they want to deal with their local Chevy dealership. No, they won't service. They're used to clicking a button and having it delivered from Amazon Prime tomorrow, right? They're not waiting. So if they need a brake job or an oil change, they're going to Jiffy Lube, man. They're going to Pep Boys, and they lose those customers. And that's silent defection, and that's horrible. And so we really truly believe that one of the reasons that we're doing so good with service retention is that we retain those customers because we don't miss those appointments. If a customer calls and needs an oil change, we're going to get it scheduled. If a customer calls and needs a brake job, we're going to get it scheduled. It's going to happen. The AI is going to ask for that appointment every single time. It's not going to falter. And if it does get screwed up, this is the one big thing about Numa that I cannot overemphasize. We are completely, totally transparent. Every single call, whether it's an AI, a human, any kind of interaction, is transcribed and recorded, and it's there for the dealership employees to see. So if the AI is unable to schedule an appointment with a customer, Ted, Sarah, we're going to actually push it back to the dealership and go, hey, we didn't get it. We need your help. And we're going to actually flag it, and they're going to have a complete recording of everything that happened. That way they can call the customer back and go, hey, by the way, I see that you were speaking to our scheduling agent about getting a brake job and they were unable to get you scheduled. What can I do to help get that done? And they're able to start where the customer left off, and they're not having to ask a whole bunch of questions. They're not having to do anything. They already know all the details, and they're able to get in and get this thing done. So there's a lot of stuff that's tied into that. The next piece is really about how do we track and manage what's happening with status updates. I harp on status updates because I think that status updates are one of the greatest ills that we have in automotive right now. If we're not updating a customer on their car, they're going to be very upset. I talked to a dealer the other day, and he goes, man, I took my boat in earlier this year to get a service, and nobody called me for a month. And I was like, well, think about how that feels if it's your car and you're depending on that for transportation to work or to get your kids to a ball game or to take them to school, and think how that feels at 12 hours, 18 hours, 24 hours if you haven't heard from your service advisor and you're the person on the other end. So that's the problem that we have, right? And so when we look at what's happening in the service department and we start stack ranking service advisors based upon how many of their calls coming in on a weekly basis or status updates, it changes the game, right? I always say this, cliches are cliches because there's truth to them, right? And how many times have we heard stuff along the lines of, if you don't measure it, it doesn't matter, right? So we're talking about status updates and we're telling advisors, I don't want people calling for a status update, but are we measuring it? And so Numa shines the light on that and is actually tracking that and is reporting back on that for the fixed operations managers. And so they're able to see, Bobby does a great job. He had one status update call this week. Billy didn't do a good job. Billy had 10 update calls this week, right? And there's something that we need to do about that. And we can address it because it's actionable, it's defined, it's measurable, right? It's information that we can act on. And so that's kind of cool. And that puts us in a unique position. Those are just some of the things that I think are really kind of unique to what we're doing and, how we're providing value back to the dealers. I cannot tell you the last 30 days, I could read a bunch of these, but we are getting so many testimonials from dealerships right now about having record months in the service drive and having more appointments than they've ever had before. And it's because of the way that we're able to take these appointment opportunities and not let them slip through the crack. So a lot of good stuff that's coming out. So I said, I want to bring this up real quick. I said, stop by the booth or reach out to us or whatever. We'd love to show you how this new integrated appointment agent is working because it's a game changer. It truly is. The second thing that we're doing, we are launching, and thank goodness that this is right at NADA because this is going to be kind of interesting as far as disrupting the industry.
Okay.
We're fully baked into the phone system already, right? That's part of what we are. We're baked into the phone system because of the way that our AI integrates with it. So we have taken the next step and we are announcing call intelligence for service advisors at NADA. And what that means is any calls that ring in or out of Numa are fully recorded. They're fully transcribed. There's a sentiment analysis, a call coaching, and a summary done on every single call. And so if we have a call where the advisor's calling out to upsell, we're going to do a sentiment analysis. We're going to do a summary. Then we're going to offer coaching cues to that advisor on what he could have said when the customer said, well, I don't think I really need to do my brakes right now. And so we're going to give him possible ways to overcome that objection. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening with this. The big thing that we're hearing from dealers is that they absolutely want this because it's recording and transcribing every single call that comes through the system, right? And they're telling us that they want it, but they've never done it before because it was too costly, right? And so we're bringing it out. If you're a Numa customer, we're going to do call intelligence, call summary, call recording, transcription, and call coaching. We're going to do it for $100 an advisor per month.
Wow.
So a ridiculously inexpensive way to begin to take it to the next level for your team. And this is this is the cool thing about working for Silicon Valley is that disruption is part of their core. And so they're like, well, we can do this. We're already using the minutes. We're already engaged with the dealer. Let's figure out how to do this at the most cost-effective way that we possibly can. And we are, and it's powerful. We've had dealers piloting it for several months now, and the results are just amazing. And what's interesting, and I go back to what I said before, if you don't measure it, it doesn't matter. When you start looking at it and the advisors realize that, yeah, it's listening to me. Yeah, it's grading me, but it's also giving me actionable ideas that I could implement tomorrow on my next call or today on my next call that's going to help me make more money. They're pretty okay with that. So it's really kind of a cool thing to see this happening in real time. And we're super excited about that. So call intelligence and the new integrated agent that allows customer to handle the appointment scheduling any way that they want is all live and can't wait to show people. It's super cool.
Well, everybody, Derek Simons here with Numa today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. If you want more information, you can visit. What is the booth number again, Derek?
7012. You can't miss us. 7012. When you come in the front door on the right side of the expo hall, we are right there. We're in the front row, right by the front door. So super excited. And hope to see both of you out there at NADA.
And if you're not going to be in New Orleans, you can also visit numa.com. Ted, I know we're going to have a lot more conversations around AI and all of the wonderful things that it can really do for service advisors and service departments.
Derek, exciting times, and thank you for leading the way at Numa. And look forward to hearing great things this year from Numa, dealers, fixed ops dealers, our dealers, your dealers, and just taking the next level. So congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Everybody, Derek Simons from Numa. Visit them at numa.com at NADA later this week in New Orleans, booth 7012. Derek Simons from Numa here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
We want to make it so that every automotive dealer can use AI natively and effectively to enhance the abilities of your employees to do their job. When we look at the ROI, one of the things that we know is that if you can communicate to a customer on a missed phone call in 15 minutes or less, that drives up profitability and customer satisfaction. So not only does our AI engage that customer on a missed phone call, it also creates a workflow for the employees to get back to the customers with predictive intelligence about what they need to provide to the customer to handle the situation as it arises.
Buckle up with BG Products in our next panel, filmed live at Bozard Ford Lincoln.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I am Ted Ings with Sarah Vantine. We are here at Bozard Ford Lincoln with one of the great partners of Bozard. It is BG Products and their distributor from BG North Florida. Clint Christ is with us, as well as Ed Roberts and Matt. Gentlemen, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable and Bozard.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Glad to be here and glad that you guys came out and joined us for a second time. Absolutely.
Ed, you're very hospitable to all of us. And tell us why it's important to have great partners like BG involved with Bozard and what you do.
We can't do this alone. We service nearly 500 customers a day. We sell 700 to 900 vehicles a month. And we couldn't do those things without great partners. We have the best team on the planet, but we can't do everything. And we need partners to help us tie all those ends together and support us through some of the things. And BG's been a great supporter with products and training and help us overcome some of the obstacles that we face in this industry.
And Matt, integral to what you're doing in fixed operations as well.
100%. So when we were first looking at bringing on a partner to help us with some of the services that BG and some of the other companies are out there, my counterpart, John, we had a really long discussion about it. And one of the big things for us is my previous experience with BG has always been good, but for us, the bigger portion of that is the service side of things. We need somebody that can be there, at a moment's notice if a tool fails or a machine needs to be calibrated or if we need product, et cetera. And that was one of the big discussions for us. And Clint and his team have far surpassed any of our expectations. They've done an amazing job. I can get a hold of him or any one of his of his team at a moment's notice, and they're out here just like that for us. So that's the biggest piece for us is the service side of it, and they're phenomenal.
Clint, let's talk a little bit about the support that you provide and that BG provides, and then I'll ask you if we have any news. But tell us a little bit about what you do here.
Sure. Part of this partnership is supporting them. Without that, anytime that they need anything, we're here for them. Whether it's something new or something old, they get new people in to do training or anything, we're there. My support staff of sales reps and so forth, we'll be out here, like Matt said, at a moment's notice. we've been working diligently with the quick land and with the main shop, with all the new services and things that have been happening in the market. So, it's been a breath of fresh air because they listen to things that I bring to the table and they say, yeah, let's do that. Let's move forward on it. And, it's been really good partnership for almost 10 years now.
And I couldn't help but notice the Ford Motorcraft that you're wearing today.
Yeah.
Any news, Clint, that you want to share with the audience?
I'm so excited about this because and Ed and Matt and those guys, they were privy to it back in July. We didn't launch till August, but we brought it to their fixed ops meeting and so forth. But it's been a long waiting. BG has actually partnered up with Ford Motor Company with their maintenance services for fuel enhanced maintenances, and we branded it under the Ford Motorcraft name. And that's another thing that we've been doing training on with their advisors and technicians and so forth. And having the backing of the OEM has made it so much easier to come in and work with this. So yeah, it's exciting. We've been waiting a long time.
Well, Ed, speaking of training, Ted and I going around Bozard Ford Lincoln and getting to go between all the different buildings and the showrooms, one of the pieces that has been most notable has been all of your training facilities. So there's a lot of thought that went into training. Could you share a little bit more with our audience about all the pieces that you have here at Bozard Ford Lincoln?
With that, okay, so BG in itself is there's a process that we provide. We don't just come in and try to piece it all together. We go through extensive training of our own people and then we bring it to the stores and to their people, and everything is thought out of how to get it from point A to point B. And the biggest thing is education in this program. If we can educate their people to educate their customers of why we need the service or why we need this type of maintenance, it's all the better of how, hey, customers understand. Whether they do it this time or the next time, at least they understand everything that needs to be done. From equipment with the technicians, we have are we're here doing training at the dealership, or we also have some new apps that we came out with. So if we're not here, we're present at that time. They can go up, the technicians can actually look on their phone and see everything they need to do. And training's key. Training is prep to do the role. Actually, a lot of times we put people in roles and expect them to just do the job. And without proper training, nobody's effective at that. That's why we spend 12 years of our life in school, and then we go further into college and do it all over again. Mm-hmm. And we're ongoing learners. And as long as we're ongoing learners, then we never grow stale. But as soon as we stop training, whether it's with our partners or internally, then that's when we start to back up and become stagnant.
And Matt, how has this culture of learning impacted you and your career development here at Bozard?
Wow. So for me, it's one of the coolest factors for me is walking through our shop and walking through pretty much anywhere in the dealership and seeing people that started out in entry-level positions and seeing where some of those individuals and a lot of these individuals in the direction their career paths. You can watch guys that started out in our quick lane have gone to through Bozard Technical Institute, have gone into the shop or gone into to being an advisor, to service management, to team leads in the shop, to shop foremans. It's really incredible to watch that growth and that career path for a lot of these individuals, because we have these training programs, and then we have Bozard Technical Institute that we've created here at the dealership. And so watching guys that started out right out of like technical school, and then you see them now as team leads, starting a family, buying their first house, having their children. It's been awesome.
And Matt, how does maintenance enter into the training story? The importance of being able to explain maintenance to the customer on the training side for the service advisors.
So that's one of my big objectives for 2025 is to, in fact, Clint and I were talking about it a few minutes ago, and we are working on some developmental training programs for the advisors to focus on caring, allowing and helping the customer understand that we want them to be able to care for their vehicle. We want the overall ownership experience for the consumer to be a good ownership experience. But if we're not doing our jobs and making those recommendations based off of certain intervals on what things should be done on those vehicles, and we're not communicating that with our consumers, we're not going to, that ownership experience falls off, because when they don't maintain their cars properly, that's typically when we start seeing problems with them. So in conjunction with the training that we're doing with Clint and BG, and the items that we're doing in-house, and the career paths that we create in those training programs, our staff is coming up and they're understanding that we want to care for the customer and we want to care for their car.
Clint, how important is that story in relating to the customer?
It hit the nail right on the head. Like I said prior, Matt and I had stepped outside. We were even being excited about this of, hey, let's go ahead and plan for 2025 and get this going with more education for his students and stuff like that. So I'm excited about it. We're going to put it on the calendar and get ready to move forward, take it to the top.
Clint, speaking of the top, BG has incredible market share. I imagine that has grown exponentially in the last year with this big announcement. Yes. And there's really nobody second or even third or fourth to BG.
No. We've been blessed. And especially with the people back at corporate, Darren Gresseth, Peter Burlow, who you've met before, and you've been out to the place. They really do everything top notch. It puts the spotlight on us to where a lot of the OEMs they come to us, they look for us, they look for our expertise. And because of all the people we have out and the 67 distributors across the United States, we have the force to go out there and do what they need us to do. And like I said, it was exciting this past July when we do our fixed ops meeting in Orlando, which had us in the head of.
Yes.
And I was excited, and I kept telling Peter, hey, he said, don't jump the gun, don't jump. And he said, okay, go ahead and let them know. And that's what we did. And I'm excited to see where this is going to go even further.
Me too. Give you the last word. So Ted said that there's not really a second or a third, and he's right. BG is the option. They are the partner, and it's partners like Clint that allows us to have that partnership and to set up the training that these guys are talking about to allow us to continue to move forward. And it's about the right partnership, and that's how we all grow. Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you for being a big part of what we're doing here today.
Thank you.
Man, and Ed, thank you for having
us. Love being here all the time.
Yeah, and Clint, thank you for the great support that BG North Florida and BG Corporate provides as well. Everybody, I'm Ted Ings. I'm here with Sarah Vantine. We're at Bozard Ford Lincoln. We will be right back. Clear. Okay, great. I think maybe you might need a photo of you.
Start your next trip with the tap of a button with the Uber for Business panel.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings, and today we are discussing delighting your customers with remote service. And we have Uber for Business and an esteemed group of panelists with us today, Ted.
I don't think they need much of an introduction. I'll make it very brief. Jim Sabino from the All-American Ford Auto Group in New Jersey is with us. Jim, welcome. Tully Williams on the West Coast at the Nilo Company in Sacramento is with us today. Sarah Bazzelli from Uber for Business is joining the panel. Welcome, Sarah. And Sean Kingrey from Madison, Wisconsin at the Kaiser Automotive Group is with us. Everybody, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. All right, to get things going, Tully, I'd like to come to you first to kind of kick things off. When we talk, and you and I have talked many times about making things more convenient for the customer, there's a lot that fits under that umbrella, if you will. What types of things do you see most successful that dealerships, including yourselves at Nilo, are doing?
Well, you know, the issue is it's all about three things to help a customer out. It's called trust, dollars, and time. You know, we've been in business for 103 years. We believe trust is there with pictures and video from our great technicians. We talk about price. We're competitively priced, but then it comes back to the holy grail. The holy grail is time. And this is where the biggest challenge is. And this is where Uber helps the best. When a customer says, you know, I don't know if I can do it today, I need transportation. You know, loaner cars are the devil of a dealership, right? And the goal is that we only have so many. And guess what happens? Uber comes in and saves the day so we can get that person back and forth. A lot of times they have a second car. They don't need a loaner car to make that repair or fix. So our goal is that we have this emergency situation. This is what Uber is all about. Does it happen every day? Absolutely. Every day we are taking people back and forth. Do you want to go to the mall? Do you want to go to the restaurant while you wait? Are there things that you can do? Can we take you to work and pick you up? And Uber does it, and it's nice because here's the deal. It's in their app, and they see it, they trust it, and they know Uber works.
Sean Kingrey, I want to kind of dovetail on what Tully just said. It seems that time and the customer's time, respect for the customer's time, is now at the very, very top, and everything else is a distant second or third. Speak to us about the importance of time and how that works into the business today.
I think the one thing, thank you, Ted. I think the one thing that we realized post-COVID, it's not about money anymore. It's not about the cost of the repair. It's time. It 100% is time. And I'll dovetail off of what Tully said. It's really never about money. They don't ask you to break the RO down. They don't ask you how much it is. It's when can it be done because I need my vehicle back. And whether that's the commercial side or the retail side or whatever it is, it all comes back to time. And to shift your thinking of the shuttle driver, where, hey, we run a shuttle every half hour or every hour on the hour. Guys, that client's not going to sit in the waiting room and wait for an hour for a shuttle ride home, because they don't have to. There's too many options out there. There's too many different scenarios where, as Tully said, they trust the phone. Everybody knows Uber. If anywhere you travel now, when's the last time you really stood in a taxi cab line? You didn't. You call an Uber. They know it. It's what they know. It's what they trust. It's the way of the future. It's not even the future. It's here. It's now, and it's such an easy fix.
Sarah Vantine, you and I recently did a panel with our good friend Brian Benstock at Paragon Honda, and he talked about the customer experience, including remote services and pickup and delivery, which Paragon is a champion of. And he said that, being a customer, even ourselves, when we wait at the dealership, we don't bring any value to the process other than maybe paying for it at the end. Sarah, your thoughts on the experience?
Well, Ted, it was so interesting because we really touched on the topic of hospitality. And that is what we're seeing the automotive industry shifting into, this hospitality mindset. How do we make this an experience for the customer? And what's really compelling about this whole conversation, when you're talking about convenience, there's a different degree of convenience depending on each customer. I'm the customer that I have to know the details because my entire day depends on it. I have to run carpool. I have to go get my kids. I have groceries. I have all kinds of things, plus my work day. So when there's a variable in that equation that's unknown to me, I have a lot of anxiety about what to expect. And so for me, from a transactional perspective, when I have the convenience to be able to look at my phone and see exactly what's going on with my car, exactly where the pieces are, where my ride is, who my driver is, their license plate, all of this information, it puts me in control of the situation. And for me, that convenience is the hospitality piece that Brian Benstock was really driving home in that conversation.
And Sarah Vantine, as a busy mom, okay, busy family there in North Carolina, you really speak to it in terms of the customer convenience because you've been on both sides of it now, on the dealership side for many years and seen the importance of having that convenience and being a customer as well.
Well, and it's so critical because, our communities and our customers are all so very different. And so you have some individuals that maybe they do prefer the method of, I'm going to just sit in the waiting room for my oil change and I don't need to look at my phone and I'm not very tech savvy, so I don't download apps. Well, that's fine. Like they can experience service the way that they've been experiencing it. But for a lot of consumers, increasingly, we're seeing more younger generations enter into the automotive industry, both as a driver or as a professional. And the reality is technology is right at our fingertips. And for us, we're the people that are looking for those solutions. How do I make it easier? How do I make it where I can review that information? And then also, too, I'm the kind of customer that I want to know exactly the process, what to expect, because there's other pieces of my day that I, like you said, Ted, you have to plan around it. And if I have, maybe I choose to get tires on my car today and I know it's going to add more time. But now I've got a partner like Uber where, okay, well, now I know I can get my ride and I can get that piece covered and all the rest of my day is going to continue to fall into place. And I don't have the anxiety about, wait a minute, what's my status of my car and where is it in the process? I have no idea. Should I call the dealership? Should I call Tully or Sean and see, where my car is at?
So Jim Sabino, you're a client of Uber. They're at All American in North Jersey in the Paramus Route 17 corridor and in Hackensack. Are customers in New Jersey any different or maybe less patient?
Maybe they're a little less patient, yes, in our neck of the woods here, as you know that. But Uber is kind of it's a universal language, right? So in California, in Wisconsin, as you know, Tully and Sean are there, they get the same level of service. And to speak to Tully and Sean and then Sarah, time, valuing a customer's time is critical. It must be done as much as possible. And in my opinion, the sweet spot is the convenience. All right, the convenience level exists, whether it's here, I'm calling an Uber at my dealership, or Tully's got one of his high-end Porsche customers. It all works the same, regardless of what part of the country you're in. So the convenience of kind of I'm going to call an on-demand service, right? So we can go onto our Uber for Business app where all of our customer-facing employees have access to, and we can, within 3 to 5 minutes, we'll have a car waiting outside to take that customer wherever they need to go. So that right there is a value of their time and a convenience level that is just second to none. It's spot on, real-time solutions to a problem, to getting a customer to point A to point B. We also use it, in other areas of our dealership, and mobile service. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a problem. One of our mobile trucks was about 13 miles away doing a job, and it happens, the wrong part was issued to the technician. So he was halfway into the job, realized he had the wrong part. We didn't have a driver at the moment. We called an Uber, put the Uber driver took the part to the mobile truck 13 miles away. Boom, problem solved. Within 5 minutes, the car pulled up. We explained it to the driver. He was very, very nice and understanding, took the part away, and the job was completely done seamlessly. No issues. So talk about a huge, huge problem avoided by just using Uber's service to do that. And it wasn't even a person. It was a part. So we use it to, the possibilities are endless. It's up to you to make sure that you take care of the customers at any count, and Uber helps us do that.
Sarah Bazzelli, isn't this innovation on behalf of the retailers incredible? Because Uber being a household name, look at all the different ways that it can be deployed at the dealership. If we could just get a few more dealers to use it.
Exactly. No, it's great to hear how everyone's using it. That's something we hear often from dealerships, is the convenience and all the creative ways you can leverage Uber to not only save the customer time in their busy day, but also your employees. So they can get moving on other tasks that in the moment are probably more important. Something else that I hear often from dealerships is the fact that, providing an Uber ride, it's not only convenient, but when you leverage it alongside your loaners, you can also open up more appointment slots often. So you're saving money compared to traditional shuttle service by not taking on some of the liability. You have real-time pricing. But if you can increase your RO volume with Uber, you can also potentially bring in more revenue too.
Jim, can I follow up with you, if I may? If a dealer were setting out to start offering remote services, what are some of the things that a dealership needs to get right? I'm going to go around the horn and get that feedback for everybody, but I want to start with you because I'm sure you're familiar with some of the pitfalls could be with all that you're doing in remote services today.
Yes, and there's a lot of moving parts, as everyone knows, right? The scheduling, the initial contact with the customer, scheduling the pickup and delivery, the time frame when the drivers will arrive to pick up the vehicle, and then you have to build out a team. You need drivers, it's not hard, but it's not easy to get drivers with clean driver's license and things. So there's a lot of obstacles on our end that we face on a daily basis. And I'm going to tell you, we've done a cost analysis many times, and it's cheaper to use Uber every single time than it is to get full-time employees. We do have a bunch of full-time employees, but we utilize Uber as a driver. So instead of using 2 drivers to go pick up a vehicle or drop one off, we use 1. We call it Uber. So that Uber ride for that one employee, that driver, is cheaper than that second employee. When you factor in, possible overtime, uniforms, vacation pay, sick pay, you put all that on paper, and Uber comes out on top every single time as a cost savings. So right there alone, it's a very, very smart business decision when you're trying to control your expenses on a service that typically is complimentary, right? Customers aren't paying for pickup and delivery. It's a complimentary service. It's something that you offer your customers as a convenience to do business with your establishment, with your dealership. So, but Uber wins on a cost analysis every single time. And they're always available. They're always available, right? So there's always somebody there, whether it's 8 o'clock in the morning, at 6:30 at night, 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. They're always available.
Tully, let me come out to you in California, and I know you're chomping at the bit, okay, to get in. Are the drivers any different in California than New Jersey?
We just don't turn the heat. We have the air conditioner on instead of the heater on. That's the only difference. The car is the same. Everything's the same. But I'm going to take one more spin at it. Think about this. I love hours. That's what we sell. Think about when the technician has a car in a rack. We do an inspection. We find something that is a safety item that needs immediate attention. We walk out to the customer because some people love to come into the dealer and wait. And what happens? I'm sorry that your brakes are metal to metal. We can do those for you today. Car on rack, best car. I walk out to the customer, show them the pictures and the video, and say, I'll be more than happy to take you wherever you would like to go today. I can have that done in a couple hours. That's going to help sell hours. That's what Uber is really all about. If it's a long-term repair, a lot of times they're looking for a loaner. But when you look at the small repairs throughout the day, this is where Uber works the best. Where how do I sell a brake job? How do I put a battery in a car? How do I have a part that's on delay? It'll be in the afternoon. Can I take you to work and pick you up the afternoon? These things here are all the, oh my God, you saved my butt stuff, right? That's what Uber's all about. That's what helps you every day. Selling more hours is helping these emergency situations.
And Tully, I've heard it's all about the hours.
Yes, it is.
Sean Kingery, that phrase has really gravitated all over the country thanks to Tully and the good work he's done at Nilo. So, Sean, your perspective, I like what Tully just mentioned about the, using Uber to help sell more hours and more jobs.
It is all about the hours. And guys, it's all about real world experiences. I mean, and literally the week that we're in, I get called to one of our stores in Watertown, Wisconsin. Tully made a comment earlier that loaners are the death of the dealership, guys. Deer are out right now. We have a $27,000 hit on a Grand Cherokee that the insurance is no good on. The client magically forgot to pay their bill 4 months ago, okay? To the point where an Uber ride would have relieved that $27,000 hit. Yes, obviously we're going to pay for that repair. We're going to get the vehicle repaired. That's a $27,000 hit on an $80,000 car. All right, now it's marred, jinxed, whatever you want to go to it. Okay, back to Tully's point. Guys, an Uber solves that problem. An Uber ride gets rid of that loaner cars, okay? There's nothing I would set out more in a 2026 Q2, Q3 to replace all my loaners in all 8 stores and just have Uber and just get rid of the overhead, the cash flow, the tie-up, the floor plan money. I mean, they're the death. And by the way, at 70, 80 grand a pop now, they're not getting any cheaper.
Sarah Vantine, let me come to you. Great points. How do we encourage more stores to innovate and try something new? Okay. We're thinking out of the box here today.
Well, a lot of it is going to come down to the processes behind the scenes that make the customer experience seamless. So there's so many pieces today with technology that you can leverage that allow you to have that bird's eye view about everything that's going on. One of the challenges that I've seen has been, whenever a dealership goes out to start a new process and they're getting ready to implement these changes, oftentimes they don't take the process all the way through on the customer experience side. And so you end up with this muddled kind of half complete situation where maybe, for example, managing your own loaner cars. Well, how many loaner cars are out? When are they due back? Are they back? Have they been cleaned? What's going on behind the scenes? Is our appointment capacity really reflective of that? All of those pieces, if you don't have it completely mapped out, how do I check this piece? How do I make it where my BDC or my service advisor can easily access that information to see where the car is and if it's available? I mean, the great news is using a technology like Uber's, you take that entire internal piece of it out of the equation. Now you have one source of truth where you are managing that complete experience, all of those convenient elements, but you're not having to add the additional layer of the process logistics for your own inventory and your own employees and all of those pieces. And so I would just encourage dealerships, if you're looking to be innovative, any process that you're going to be putting in place, make sure that you map the entire piece out all the way through to make sure that you have the best experience for your customers.
Great points. Can I follow up with Sarah Bazzelli on that? Because I would imagine when it comes to a dealership's loaner car fleet, obviously a lot of moving parts, Sarah. You've got to keep track of where the vehicle is, compliance. There's a lot of moving parts there. I would imagine that Uber provides a lot of tools for dealers as part of that Uber experience. If you could tell us maybe a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. So we actually have a dedicated team that just focuses on the automotive industry and has taken the feedback from many dealerships that use our platform and use that to build new solutions. So a few that come to mind, the first starting with loaners is vouchers. So everyone's probably familiar with using Uber for, single day service. You book a ride on demand, but you can also do it for multi-day service. So you could give them a budget to leverage around town. And dealerships often will tell our sales team that it ends up costing less, just given that it's pay as you go. So they're not often billed even the full cost of the voucher. And you can put in place some really specific policies. So that would be one feature. The other one that dealerships rave about is flexible rides. So instead of booking it for a very specific time period, Sarah, you mentioned, your day can, go in so many different directions, and, same at the dealership. So you can let the customer respond to the text when they're ready for the driver to be dispatched. So there's more flexibility. And then they're also not having to call back into the dealership, bringing up time again. That's huge.
Jim Sabino, I do have a follow-up for you, specifically you, on remote services. It was a year and a half ago. I think you told me you had acquired the third or fourth mobile service van. It's a different story today at All American. First of all, are these remote services going away, such as pickup and delivery and mobile service? And secondly, what are when we do this at scale, which you are clearly doing now in the Northeast, what are some of the things to consider there?
Remote services are here to stay, Ted. It's the new way forward. It's because it brings such a convenience that really never existed at a scale level before. We get the onesie twosies, but at the scale, we're currently running 11 mobile service vans out of our dealerships, and we're averaging between 12 and 15 pickup and deliveries per day per store. So there's a lot of moving parts. You have to have kind of a team behind the curtain to kind of manage that, organize it. And to make it successful. And of course, you have to consider the people that are going to be out sick, or the people that are going to be on vacation, or the bad weather, and you take that in consideration. So Uber has, helped us tremendously fill in a lot of the gaps with remote service when we're short on staff or due to vacations or sick, and they're always there. And it's, like I said, Uber is universal. Everybody, all our customers, they usually have an app on their phone. So you enter in some information and they get notified that the driver is, 2 minutes away, 3 minutes away, what kind of car, the plate number, a picture of the driver, boom. It's like nothing. It's like they ordered it themselves, but we're doing that for them and obviously paying the expense of it. So to scale, continue to use Uber, and I like the flexibility of what they offer, all their services and the vouchers, and instead of the loaner car, and right to Tully and to Sean, the loaners are definitely the death of the dealership for sure. The expense alone, the insurance, the cleaning of them. Where are they? Are they people say they're supposed to come back and they went on vacation for the weekend? They're not coming back in 2-3 days. So you don't have to deal with that when Uber takes over that kind of convenience of getting the customers from point A to point B. And the expense is much more affordable and manageable. So it works. But, it takes somebody at the dealership, a team of people to coordinate it, and Uber's, obviously, as everybody knows, their app and their dashboards are incredibly user-friendly. And that makes a big help. All of my people, all of our customer facing, all have access to the app, and they can at any time. They don't need authorization. They just schedule it they just go. If somebody needs to go to the mall, or somebody wants to go to lunch, somebody just wants to go home because we, like as to Tully saying, we sold a brake job or 4 tires and an alignment, and it's a waiter. We just Uber them home, and then we either Uber them back or we will deliver the car back to their home. And have an Uber take our driver from their home back to the dealership. So there's a lot of different ways to go there. You just have to, constantly forward think and think of scale. Just don't be content with doing what you're doing. If I'm successfully doing X amount of rides per day, I want to get, increase it by 20%. So Uber's going to come along for the ride because they're a big part of our success in managing the flow of people and cars throughout the day.
Tully, some things just have to be done in the shop, though. Okay, right? I know that Jim and Sean can do a lot of things remotely. I've heard a lot about that with their franchises. But talk to us about making it easier for the customer by having a service like Uber.
So here's what I think about when you look at. There's 2 things to think about. Let's just think about the customer and the service advisor, and what happens at the end of the day. Now, our goal is not to overwork a service advisor, but at the end of the day, chaos starts to happen. And what happens with chaos? customer service drops. When I promised a person an Uber and I didn't do it in time, it could be 1 minute or 10 minutes or an hour, the customer's upset. When Sarah said, I have a voucher, when you give a customer a voucher, what have you done? You put the power in the customer's hand to make that Uber ride at their convenience. Remember, when we make the ride, it's at our convenience, or it's really about, did I get time to make that Uber ride? But if we give the customer the power, as we talk about, give the customer more flexibility. We'll pick up your car, we'll take your car home. We'll pick you up, we'll take you home. But also the issue is bring the customer into it. That frees up the advisor. Our goal is to do what? Stay off the phone. As my daughter says, the phone is for old people, Daddy. We want to text, right? So here we go. We're sending text to our customer. Your car is correct. Here is your video. Here is your bill. Pay with this link. And by the way, here's a voucher to get you back here at your earliest convenience. What more do you want in a day? What way to make an advisor much more efficient? The worst thing you want to do is have your customer-facing advisor flustered.
Sean Kingery, I would imagine this has got to help the customer satisfaction.
It's huge. And Ted, you and I share a lot of things offline as well as far as growth. 37, 38% year over year growth. Guys, pickup and delivery is a big part of that for us. Back to what Tully says, you got to relieve some of that pressure and that 7 a.m. and that 5 p.m. hammer on the service drive. You can schedule appointments whenever you like, guys. Clients are going to come in what's convenient for them. All right. And it's inherent to the business. And our pickup and deliveries become such a big piece of it. And you asked earlier, we had to wean into it where the client was here, where we would deliver it back to them. And once they get a taste of it, well, if you deliver it back, will you pick it up? Yes. Will you come to my house and actually fix it? We do. Our SOP parts, and we can go down that train. We fixed our SOP part problem by pickup and delivery and mobile service. We schedule that appointment in advance. We know when we're going to do it because we're going to guarantee we're going to install it. Again, back to Sarah's point really quick. When you had the pop-up event up in Northwood, Ted, the one word was hospitality. The entire subject, whether it was Reda and everybody else that was there, Brian, everybody was there. It wasn't money. It wasn't financials. It wasn't absorption. It was hospitality. Everybody had the same message. And nobody orchestrated that. That's just the new word of the business. It's not absorption. It's hospitality.
So Sarah Bazzelli, that came out organically at a recent event that we did with some very high profile retailers like the ones we have on here, comparing the retail auto industry, saying that we're really in the hospitality industry. And Sarah, that makes so much sense with some of the things that we're hearing here today on this panel.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we know CSI scores are so important and customer loyalty. So focusing on their experience, of course, is paramount. And here at Uber for Business, we have taken away some of the barriers to entry, I think, for pickup and drop off. So Uber for Business is a free platform. It doesn't cost anything to get started. You're just billed for the actual ride price. So any dealership could theoretically start offering pickup and drop off, maybe at a smaller scale to start and see which customers are interested. Because with Uber, you can eliminate the need for a chase car. So it makes it more affordable and something you can just do in real time.
I love it a lot. Everybody, last question for today. I'll give you all 30 seconds. We'll start with Sarah Vantine, go over to Jim Sabino, Sean Kingery, Sarah Bazzelli. We'll ask Tully to bring it home. Here we are in the middle of November, a matter of weeks away from a new year, 2025. If you had told me 5 years ago there'd be something like service pickup and delivery, I may have been skeptical. Today, that's embedded into the fabric of what we do at retail dealerships. If you had 30 seconds, Sarah Vantine, to kind of sum this up and talk to your fellow retailers who are watching with maybe a recommendation or something they should consider for the new year that has to do with their loaner fleet or convenience or hospitality. Sarah Vantine, what would that be?
So customers today, they're increasingly making service appointments on their cell phones and mobily, but they may not always enter the right information. And so recalls comes to mind, right? They book an oil change, but their car has 4 or 5 recalls. Use a platform like Uber for Business, where now you can get the vehicle fixed. You don't have to turn away that recall, and you can get the customer where they need to be next. This is a great solution to fill in the gaps where the customer may not have the ball correct.
I love it. Jim Sabino, 30 seconds.
Sure. Again, 5 years ago, I agree with you, Ted. I'm with you. And I said the same thing about mobile service and pickup and delivery. The whole remote experience umbrella is really the way forward. It's the new way. It's a customer retention. It's customer satisfaction. It's customer loyalty, which all basically adds up to revenue, additional revenue within your organization. So if you're not doing this or offering these services or partnered up with Uber, I recommend that you do it and you start slow. Test the water, see how it works, and you'll be surprised on how good and convenient and how easy it is to schedule this and get your team on board. And your customers will respond in a very, very positive way because you took out some obstacles and roadblocks and you made life a little bit easier on that day for them. So, and that goes a long way. And they will continue to do business with you if it's easy and you value their time, as came up in this, and I just get into it because it's the way forward. It definitely is. It's here to stay.
Sean Kingery, recommendations for your peers going into the new year.
New word of the year is definitely hospitality. Let's talk ROI real quick, and not to beat a dead horse is something I talked about earlier of my $27,000 I don't have insurance deer hit. How many Uber rides could I have bought for a $27,000 hit that we're going to absorb internally? That's it.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Sarah Bozzelli at Uber.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to our automotive team. They can meet in person, virtually. We really like to take a consultative approach. So hearing from everyone, there's, of course, common themes, but every dealership is unique. There's different brands. So really going the extra mile to spend the time with you to see, what's working well, where can we help, provide improvements.
Tully, don't be shy.
Okay, here we go. If you want to sell more hours, do you want to help your customers out? Do you want to give them the power of transportation? Do you want to help your service advisors be better organized and sell better? Why would you not want Uber?
Yep. It's all about the hours. Everybody, I want to thank our retail panel. Great information today. Sarah Vantine with the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Jim Sabino, All-American Ford Auto Group in New Jersey. Sean Kingery at Kaiser Automotive Group. Tully Williams with the Nilo Company. Sarah Bozzelli at Uber. Everybody down below in the ticker, you can see the URL. You can visit Uber online. Easy to get started. We've got retailers from all over the nation. And on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, I'd like to wish everybody on the panel today thank you for all you do for retail automotive. So, everybody, the Uber for Business panel here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
At your dealership, customers always come first. Discover how you can help ensure a 5-star experience, boost CSI scores, and control costs with Uber for Business. Elevate your customer experience by providing courtesy rides to customers while their cars are being serviced. Use Central to request an Uber ride for your customer. They'll receive an SMS to track their trip. For repairs that might take a few days, provide a voucher with Uber credit that can be used on rides. Use Central to help move employees to and from the dealership with ease. Provide white glove service with vehicle pickup and drop off during service or maintenance appointments. Transport parts straight to your service bay using the parts delivery feature on Central. Uber for Business helps you optimize costs and improve operational efficiency while taking your customers' experience from good to great. Join thousands of auto dealerships using Uber for Business today. Learn more on our website.
Next stop, the Big Texan Steak Ranch. Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable Route 66 road trip event.
Get behind the wheel for the Women of Fixed Ops panel with Sarah Vantine.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Today we have an incredible panel, the Women of Fixed Ops panel. We have Linda G. Hansen, Dawn Newsom, and Tammy Ventura with us today. Ladies, welcome to the Roundtable.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you for having us.
Well, I'm so looking forward to our topic today. We've had a lot of conversations going on in the industry around new hire, best practices, onboarding, and then retention strategies with employees. And you ladies have some of the best practices in your respective organizations and throughout your career. So I'm really excited to be asking you these questions today. Dawn, I think I'll come to you first. So we're seeing a lot of organizations working to find the best talent, but the job market is competitive. There's a lot of industries outside of automotive that are vying for this incredible talent that's coming into the workforce. What best practices do you use in finding your employees that are the best fit for your organization?
Sarah, one of the things that we did a few years back, and it was hire a recruiter. And this person is solely focused on, the ads that are listed for the different job types, heavily focused on fixed operations, largely around technician recruiting, service advisor recruiting, and certainly service management recruiting. What I find, especially from employment needs that are not at the management level, when you put those types of tasks on a service manager who is drinking from a fire hose every single day, they make that call to that applicant that applied, and maybe the applicant doesn't answer, but they call right back, and then the service managers with a customer, they're handling a personnel issue. So I tried to take some of that back and forth off of their plates and put someone in place that, gets up every single day and does absolutely nothing but think about listing ads and responding back to them in a timely manner. And I've really noticed a difference in our ability to recruit quicker because we are able to follow up and have that touch point of that recruiter that's the liaison between the department manager that's actually going to make the hiring decision and the applicant.
Those are such great points, Dawn, because you're right. I didn't even think about some of that lag in between the service manager having to try to schedule that interview or try to schedule that follow-up conversation on a resume, and it just kind of getting lost in the shuffle. Linda, in your experience, what have you found, in an increasingly competitive job market, the best practices that you've seen for dealerships to utilize when it comes to finding the best employees?
Well, I'll tell you what, I agree so much with what Dawn said. Trying to take something off of the manager's plate will definitely make their life a lot easier. And we see a lot of times people will see an ad, and if the ad isn't written really, really well and doesn't give you the true picture of what the job entails, we see people applying that really are not a good fit. So having someone to be able to go through and weed those out and just present true qualified candidates, to me, that's a big part of it. I'm seeing more and more dealerships go ahead and put information on their websites, including what they're looking for, what the bonus structure is, what the career path is. I know there's a dealer group here in the Cincinnati area that lists for entry-level technicians, talking about express, and then they show the path going from express to general maintenance to B, C, A, and what the opportunities are at each individual level. And one thing that really impresses me is when I'm working with a dealership and I see that they have a program to provide the entry-level technician with basic tools. And a lot of times the tools, once you advance and you go from express to the main shop, once you have put in that time and earned your advancement, then the tools are actually belonging to the technician without having to pay anything additional. Because I know a lot of kids who are in the vocational high schools and in the career, tech schools, that's a huge investment for them. So trying to find some creative ways to attract talent who might go to a different field because they don't have to have that initial outlay of tools. So just a couple thoughts.
That's a great point, Linda, because that is a barrier sometimes to the job application. And I'm glad you also mentioned sometimes about the description of the job ad, because that can be a whole other deterrent or problem in the hiring process. Is you have candidates that are in the pipeline that don't necessarily have the best fit, but but also that component of having, a pathway for them to see how they're going to advance. Those are great points. And Tammy, I know with the Hudson Automotive Group and with BDC, you're working with a lot of different rooftops, and so you have a little bit different of a best practice mindset. So how do you go about finding talent for with a competitive job market and people that are right for your organization?
Yeah, I think Dawn and Linda both have brought up some really crucial points. One is, how do we lift that off the person who doesn't really have the time to dig into thousands of applicants and see what each one looks like, and is their resume even up to date? What are we looking for? What are the clear expectations and the key words there? And then Linda brought a good point to the table, which is being very clear with what you're looking for, the levels and the growth path. We talk a lot about a very clear path and what automotive can even bring to the table. I think people don't really truly understand the growth. And then the next question they have is, what does that growth look like? What does that career path look like? So with BDC, I have honestly found what works best for me. I mean, I do the old fashioned when I'm in a restaurant or I'm in a drive with Chick-fil-A. I do all that as well. I've recruited some people that way. I've had a couple of really good recommendations through people. But also, I have a recruiter that I heavily depend on. He knows my very clear expectations. He sends me, I give him questions. They record videos with each individual. They send me answers to the questions. And you can tell a lot about a person by how they decide to record that video and what they feel is important to share with you, and the questions that they ask when you get a little bit further into the interview process. There was something I actually broke into automotive recruiting. That's what I did. I worked for a recruiting company and hired across the country for BDC, for service managers, salespeople, just technicians, everyone. And so I have a lot of understanding from the recruiting side, but now when you actually go into the dealership, and I've been in the dealership world for a long time, about 18 years now combined, you start seeing the clarity of what you're actually looking for in the dealership. There was a questionnaire that we used to follow, and I still use it in my interviews today, and it has 10 words, and we set the clock for a minute, and I say a word and you say the first word that pops into your mind. So I say blue, you may say green. And believe it or not, there's a lot of psychology behind this. And when I was in recruiting, I used this, and the general managers and sales managers and service managers would say, you know what I love? I love this sheet that has the 10 words on it, because it gives me so much insight to this person's mentality. So, it's getting them in. And then I know we're going to touch on some other things, but then what do we do past that point as well?
Well, Tammy, I love that you mentioned the combination of using the technology component with the video. And then, with Dawn and you as well, it sounds like a recruiter having somebody to really manage just that piece of it, to get talent through the right channels so they can get into interviews and get, inspected. So if they're the right fit for your organization, it's really saving everybody a lot of time. And Dawn, I want to come back to you because, I thought it was really interesting, all of the pieces with the Vantine Automotive Group. But, when we're talking about the onboarding process and the new hires, and you have a lot of different components that have been really successful in your organization. So what are some areas, in your onboarding process that you've implemented when hiring somebody for service?
So as a part of our onboarding process, if you kind of go back and put yourself in the employee's shoes, that day one experience is everything. It's like everybody says, it's your first impression. And what I was noticing a lot of was that on day one, the employee didn't necessarily know where to go. They didn't know who to ask for. They didn't have a login to their computer system. They didn't have a workstation set up. They didn't even have, a lot of times everybody's using laptops these days instead of desktops. So they didn't have a laptop, and it was just kind of standing around and, waiting for something to happen. So one of the things that we've implemented in our organization is this is called your day one process. And we have steps in the hiring process so that all of those things are taking place before the employee arrives. And in order for them to actually start working, they have to go through what we call orientation. And in orientation, they get, an introduction to the company. They get who's who in the company. They get, a printout that has, their company's name, address, who the managers are at their stores. And then they also get all of their logins, their login for their payroll. They get their login for, if you're using CDK or Reynolds or, Dealer Tracker, whatever your DMS is, so that when they arrive on site, now they just have to be pointed to their workstation. And, we don't always get it right. Sometimes we miss the process and it gets shortcutted. But it's definitely an indicator that structuring the orientation of that employee makes that day one experience so much better.
Well, Dawn, and I mean, you're ahead of the curve because there's so many dealerships that don't have an onboarding process or strategy. It is, I've had that experience even in my career where it's your first day and here I am and everyone's like, who are you? And what are you doing here? And what job are you doing? And so it's great to hear, even if it's not perfect, there's still a workflow and a process and the expectation that these pieces will be done when somebody is coming on board. And Linda, from your perspective, that new hire training plan, there's a lot of components that show it can be really successful if implemented correctly. What pieces would you suggest dealerships look at in their onboarding?
Well, I like to talk about a concept called pre-boarding, where we start the onboarding before even day one starts. And I know a lot of the stores that I work with will send a welcome kit to the employee's home, which has a lot of the things that Dawn was just talking about with the information, the layout, where in the world do I park when I come in? If they've been to the dealership for a live interview, which I'm sure they have, 1, 2, perhaps 3 interviews, starting with the tour of the dealership before they're even hired, I think that starts to build that emotional connection. And onboarding, to me, pre-boarding, onboarding, and their first couple of days, that's time to build that passion and build that emotional connection. Because if they don't feel and absorb the dealership culture, they're never going to be good in their role. So I think making sure that they feel welcome, that they feel part of the team. And I know I've mentioned this on some of the previous panels before, but when I was a service director, my advisors didn't write up a customer until they spent some time in the dealership in the service department, mentoring, well, not mentoring, but mirroring technicians and spending time in parts. And the same thing with technicians. They didn't touch a tool or even open their toolbox in the morning until they spent a few days in service and parts, just learning the lay of the land and absorbing the culture. So I think the onboarding, the pre-boarding, and ongoing touch base meetings, just checkups. One of the things that I think is also a great thing is for the manager who is in charge of whatever department this employee is going to be in, takes them on a tour of every single department and let them sit there and talk to the people who work in the office, who work in F&I, who work in parts, just to get to know their comrades in arms, basically. And I think it's also a great idea on that first day for the manager to take that person and a couple other people from the dealership out to lunch to celebrate who they are and the fact that they're part of the team. So just some thoughts.
Those are some great points, Linda. And I love that you pulled in the pieces about bringing that employee across to other departments that they're going to ultimately be interacting with. There's nothing worse than being in an organization and someone answers the phone and you're like, who is that person? I don't recognize that voice. What do you do? What do you do here? What is your job? And that eliminates that whole situation completely because you have all of that cross-pollination between departments. And Tammy, I would love to hear your perspective. So from your onboarding process and some of the best practices that you incorporate, What are the pieces in your organization that have been successful?
That's a good question. It is a little different in our world. I, can totally relate to Dawn and Linda being in the dealership world before. And I love, you're right. Like they show up and it's like, where do I park? Where's the restroom? Take them on a tour of the dealership. In our situation, we support 27 rooftops and we have 56 employees right now. It's a blend. We have South Carolina, North Carolina in a dealership, in a remote building, and then we have remote. So we have virtual. So we have to blend all those in. And how do we make everyone know the team, feel that they're a part of the team, and also feel that they're very much a part of the company? That's crucial. So to your guys' point, it's setting as much up pre-first day as we can, because when they get here, we want to hit the ground running with that person. So they're not sitting around trying to finish those little details and things like that. We want them ready for day one orientation. And I have an assigned agent that has actually become very good at this. And she takes them and she has a plan criteria that she puts them through. We spend the first day introducing them to Hudson, what that looks like, the different layers in the company, because there's so many different layers of the company, and what the growth pattern looks like for them, opportunities in the BDC, if we haven't already discussed that, or if they have any questions, and just the core values, who our leaders are, who the leaders are in each individual store. We review the libraries in each individual store that we have set up, and we want them to understand who they're supporting. And every time they take a call or make a call for that store, they are an employee of that store, and we are teammates, and we're all here to support each other. So, that whole layer of introduction and what that first, second, and third day looks like is set up for them from the minute they sign in or walk in. If they're virtual, they're on camera, they're all over our screen. We call it our classroom. They're able to talk, and when they start taking calls, they can talk, but they can't hear each other. But if they unmute, they have us immediately. Natalia and I, my right-hand manager, we step in, we introduce ourselves. I have a day with them. I want them, some of them have been in dealerships before, some of them haven't. I want them to understand what it's like to be a service director, to be a regional fixed ops director, to be an advisor, to be a porter. We go through all the different positions in the company so they understand what it's like to be in a dealership. If they are close to a dealership, we send them to the dealership and they shadow somebody in service, because we support service, and they're able to get a better feel for how that really works inside of the store. So, it's just all those crucial pieces, like Linda and Dawn were saying, that help that person to truly understand what that culture and what that environment is like, so they can support it to the best of their ability.
That's awesome, Tammy. And I think in our last few minutes here, one of the other pieces that I know all of you have incredible experience with, but I'd like to just make this a lightning round question. So like maybe 30 seconds each. I'm going to put you on the spot, but promoting from within is a big topic too. And what advice, and I'll start Linda and I'll come around, and Dawn, I'll have you close. Linda, promoting from within, if there is a piece of advice that you could give in 30 seconds or less, what advice would you say dealers should best consider?
Keep the lines of communication open and know how your people feel about opportunities for advancement. We may think someone is ready. They may not have any interest in making a change. And when you do identify them, use some of the tools. I love Tammy's tool with the red and green and the 10 words. But you've got all kinds of DISC, Myers-Briggs, Strength Finder, all kinds of assessments that you should be using with your staff as you grow them. And then basically you have a bench and you know who is ready and who might need a little bit more coaching and counseling. So,
Tammy, 30 seconds. Promoting
Holy
from within.
cow.
What best practice would you suggest?
Linda, I love your talk. I can talk on this all day long, as you know, Sarah. But promoting from within, huge believer in it. And like I said before on another podcast that we did, if they see it and they hear it and they watch it happen, they believe it. They become believers. But to Linda's point, do they want it for themselves as much as we want it for them? Are they ready for it? Right. There's a lot of coaching. We do leadership. We have leadership classes. We have mentors, layers of mentors. Are you ready to be a mentor? That's the next step. Are you ready to be a team lead? Are you ready to be a BDC manager? Are you ready to be the coaching and trainer? Are you ready to be the scorecard person? I like to give people that I think may be ready, and we've had those crucial conversations that Linda's talking about, a little project and see how they handle it, and then also keep their work going as well. So, that could be a whole other thing that you might want to talk about one day, but growing from within is very important. People, they're parents, they have children, they're grown, they want to be recognized as a person that can contribute and give back. And some people, I don't mean just, but they just want to be the best BDR they can be. And some people want to grow into leadership.
Dawn, you take us home. We got 30 seconds. Promoting from within. What best practice would you leave us with today?
I think the best practice from promoting from within is definitely making sure that you've got the person that wants the role as much as you want them to have it. That's been probably the best thing that I've heard on this call today. And I would say that in order to do that, you've got to spend time with what I call your bench. I'm always building my bench for the next manager. And it might start with lead advisors that may end up in lane manager roles, that then may end up in service manager roles and things of that nature. But the biggest thing I think that helps us promote from within is keeping the line of communications open for just your boots on the ground employees with senior leadership. So for instance, I meet with my lead advisors and I meet with my lane managers absent of their department managers to work on their development from a leadership standpoint, not necessarily based on what's happening in your store today, but about, what do you feel like you're struggling with? What's your team struggling with? And just listening to them and trying to pick apart, are they ready for the next steps? Or, have they met their capacity, or are they really happy where they are? And just like you said, some people don't want to take that next step. So communication, I think, is key from the ground up to determine if someone's ready and if you're putting them in a role that they can succeed in.
Well, everyone, on behalf of Ted Ings, thank you all for being part of the Women in Fixed Ops panel with us today. Linda G. Hansen, Dawn Newsom, and Tammy Ventura at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Stay tuned. We have some incredible segments coming up next.
Go. Hey, how would you like to pay? Card, cash, or check?
I will do a card.
Okay, thank you very much. And will you sign right here?
Sure.
Okay, have a great day.
Great, thank you. Introducing Dealer Pay Moves, Dealer Pay's new mobile application for dealerships on the move. It's really great because all you have to do is search for your repair order. It's then going to search whichever DMS that the dealership is connected to. As you can see, it's going to pull up that customer record in that open repair order. I'm simply going to select it. Now you've got all your customer details here, including the surcharge amount if it were to be applied with a credit card. I've got options to pay by credit debit. I can key enter the transaction. I can use a paper check or even report cash. I can even add transactions in here so I can do some real-time voids and refunds. Dealer Pay Moves is a great solution for your dealership to stay relevant and mobile.
I'm Nick Wright. I'm a lead performance manager with Private Time GPS. Been with the company for 6 years as a performance manager, car business for 17 years, and I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I made the switch from retail to Viato. I took the leap to go on the Viato side just because I could still make a difference in the dealership, still help everyone achieve goals, which is, from a sports guy, that's my goal. All the mistakes that I made in my career or things that I wish I would have known or paid attention to is now my almost mission or pet peeve with every time I get a new client. It's, hey, these are the things that I thought. Here's the things that I perceive this software to do or this system to do, and this is actually what it does. What I hear all the time is, people would say, well, Viato says, or Viato is telling me to do this, and a lot of the times we're not telling you to do anything, it's just reading the market and understanding what that market is now presenting to you and the choice that you have to make. So it's essentially understanding how that works and how we can coexist with our plan as a dealer versus what the market is telling me and how I can marry those things together. So I think it's asking the questions that is pertaining to that particular dealer, what are their goals that they want to achieve, and then tailoring our approach and using the software to achieve those goals. The most rewarding part of my job is seeing a dealer that says, hey, I want to sell 100 cars, and they're selling 30, and they have this pie in the sky number of what they want to do per month, and then we look back 3 years later and they're selling 150 and 200, and we laughed at the times that they were selling 30 and said, hey, will we ever get there? So really, it's the change that I make with my dealers. It feels really great to hear them affected.
Our next speaker has put technology on the map. It's Ewer Anderson from Velo.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I am Ted Ings with Sarah Vantine. We are here at Bozard Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine, Florida, with two great friends, Ed Roberts, the COO, and honored to welcome Ewer Anderson from Velo. Gentlemen, welcome to the event.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Glad to be here. And Ed, thanks so much for your hospitality and getting a chance to meet the people of Bozard this week at your store.
It's great to have you here, and our people's enjoying the exposure, and they enjoyed sharing what they do, and it's been a cool experience, so thank you for being here.
Well, one of the reasons that Sarah and I enjoy coming in is that we get to see the latest in service, parts, fixed operations, and processes throughout the dealership, and that includes the technology, okay? Things that you're doing at the store, and things that you are doing at Velo all around the country to help dealers in fixed operations. And by the way, congratulations to you on all the success that you're having.
Thank you. Thank you. We're excited today at Velo to support over 7,300 dealers. We've been kind of quietly but quickly growing, and we're excited to innovate, atop what's already happening in the industry today.
Well, you've got some great brands with Velo, Rapid Recon, Dealer Logics, Text to Drive, just to name a few, okay? And why is technology so important for dealerships now coming into the new year?
Well, technology is what we live in, and unfortunately, we sometimes go out from the wrong approach, and that's where partners like Mr. Anderson helps us out, is we'll come in and we'll have a broken process and we'll think, okay, I need some technology to fix that. Well, the technology doesn't fix the broken process. You got to fix the process, then the technology enhances it. And that's where Anderson can come in and help us and really elevate it. Say, hey, here's some things that I've seen working, and then we do that and put this on top of it. We're off to the races.
And you said 7,300 rooftops. So I imagine that you see a lot of differences between both, the dealership size and scale of the technology that they implement, but then also too, the brands that they represent. Can you share with us, how do you tackle all of that diversity across the country?
I think first things first, we ground ourselves in what's most important, which is the experience each dealer rooftop is attempting to create with the consumer and with their team internally, right? So culture kind of trumps all for us, and our job really is to take technology and put it back in the hands of the dealer so that they can now create those respective experiences, and they're not all made equal, right? So depending on if you're a rural dealer, out in a very low volume region, or if you're a high volume dealer in center Chicago, right? Like, you're going to have different needs. And we use our technology to make sure, and our approach to make sure that we're accommodating to those needs, which to your point is vast, as far as the demographics concerned. So our key to success has a lot to do with being flexible and listening, really understanding what the dealer's trying to accomplish, and catering our service, our technology, and our teams to that end.
Well, and Ed, I mean, with Bozard Ford Lincoln, a lot of people wouldn't even realize that it's in St. Augustine, Florida. So you're not talking like a major metropolitan city, and yet you've seen all this growth both in employees and also in just the book of business that you have. Can you share with us, I mean, how did this all get started with the technology?
Well, technology allows us to be more efficient. But it's really going back to what I said earlier, it's the partnership. And so it isn't just the technology, it's the support that these guys offer us, and it allows us to really enhance what we do. But we're in a demanding time, and we'll say 20 years from now that we're in a demanding time because it will be demanding at a different level.
That's right.
But reality is things pick up pace over time. Well, we're still human, we're still people, and we need things to help us keep up with that pace. And that's where technology really comes in. And with a true partner in the business, that's where we can really raise the game of every level. And man, you guys dance in just about everything that we do here. And that helps us immensely.
Right on.
So, Ewart, I want to talk to you about one of the things that's taken shape in the last couple of years in the industry, and that's these video inspections and video MPIs coming from the technician as being now front-facing, so the customer can see a more transparent process, have their questions answered. I mean, that's just one of the things, okay? Mm-hmm. But how do you see that playing out? From everything that Sarah and I know that Ed see, that's going to continue to grow, and the demand for that is just going to be exponential.
Sure. So a couple of thoughts. One, Bozard is a great example. The team here and the processes that they've built up are a great example of how you limit the impact of technology and then maximize it to the end that you desire as it relates to the customer experience, right? You have team members here that are in 5 or 6 different technologies on a day-to-day in any respective dealership, and that's not optimal. Right. If you jump and dive into the MPI process specifically, and you think about the digital experience that customers have come to expect from their purchasing online, from working with other in other industries, getting imagery of what it is they're trying to accomplish, and just trusting that things are getting done the right way and that the right things are getting done. They're not. There is a dealership stigma in the consumer world that of trust that consumers are trying to overcome, and having a really effective MPI DVI process allows them to overcome that, right? With actual data, they can see almost as if they're in the lane exactly what's going on and what needs to be repaired. And I think Bozard has done an excellent job here at maximizing that to create that transparency with the consumer. The next step, to your point, about how we take that to the next level is to solicit feedback from those consumers, find out what other elements of that experience would create trust, and again, I think Bozard is a great testimony to that end too.
Ed, there's no going back.
Well, the real test is, a lot of what West Jansen offers us is things that helps us in the store, but the real test is what the customer gets out of it, and that's where the video MPI comes into play. Because customers, no matter whether you're in this industry or in another industry, you always question, am I being told the truth? And when we can show them in a video, it gives that transparency. And it's hard to deny what's right in front of you, and because it's there, it's reality, and it creates that transparency. So those are the elements that the customer feels. And when we can tie all those together, it becomes seamless for them. And looking through their lens, that's what we want to do.
And you help us with things that start even earlier, writing up the customer. I couldn't imagine doing that anymore with a pen and paper and clipboard. You help us do it now electronically. It's professional, transparent again for the customer to see all that. With a lot of the things that you do, you've really taken fixed operations. You've got a big umbrella at Bilo.
Sure. And to your point about the write-up experience, tying that into what Ed just shared about building trust, everything from the initial check-in and scheduling an appointment, automating that, letting the car almost speak to the customer, which is probably why they ended up in the service lane to begin with, and being able to translate that language to something the customer can understand, all the way through the full repair order process and service experience. Like it's huge. And today, like our goal is to drive, and empower that experience with our dealers, and make sure that they become their customers' favorite. Keeping customers is a very difficult thing today, in any industry, and in dealership it's most certainly one of the most challenging things that they can accomplish. So we want to make sure to arm them with tools to do that.
Well, and you see so much happening in the industry, and as I'm sure the customer experience demands more transparency, more interfaces that make it seamless. What's on the horizon for Velo in 2025?
Sure. I think one, taking customer experience to the next level has very little to do with our imagination, and more to do with our ability to go listen to dealers and to consumers and ask the right questions and seek out the opportunities for innovation. We also are not very interested in overcomplicating that experience, right? Trust is typically not something sophisticated. It's something very simple, and it's intentional. So we want to make sure that as we innovate based on building trust and helping dealers to build trust with consumers, and meet in that very difficult to find but important space.
And Ed, you see so much innovation happening right here at Bozard Ford Lincoln. What are you focused on for 2025?
We create priorities for every department, and we always want focusing on going forward. And some of that is technology. And I love what you just said, that we have a purpose behind the technology that we build, and that purpose is to intensify transparency. And that's what we always want to intensify and carry forward, no matter which year it is create that transparency. And when we do that with the vehicle that we have, then we might get the chance to make that second vehicle in that driveway ours as well, and offer that same transparency.
Well, Sarah, we're here at Bozard. We're here with the best team on the planet, Bozard Ford Lincoln. And I got to tell you, what a great experience to, just come here and, engulf ourselves in the culture and hear from the people in the career path. It's got to be refreshing for you to see this as well.
Indeed. I do feel very privileged to be here. I think Ed and team have set up, the best team in the industry and in the world. So and I don't think that's automotive specific either. I've not seen very many operations that are this impressive. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Everybody, we're here with two great leaders in the industry. Ewart Anderson at Velo, the home of Rapid Recon, Text to Drive, Dealer Logics, and more, and Ed Roberts at Bozard Ford Lincoln. Sarah Vantine and I will be coming right back.
'25 is the year of the parts department, and we are excited to highlight some of the best in automotive. Join us live in New Orleans at the NADA Expo, where Revolution Parts is proud to host the prestigious Online Parts Excellence Awards, honoring the nation's top online parts sellers. This ceremony will be taking place Friday, January 24th at NADA, and will be hosted by me, Sarah Vantine of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. During the event, we will unveil the winners in several categories, including top overall sales, top eBay sales, top Amazon sales, Parts Excellence Award, Rookie of the Year, Influencer of the Year, and the top sales in each brand category. Be sure to join us at booth 7451 to help us celebrate the excellence in the parts industry. See you all there. We're sitting on the edge of our seats for this next segment. Please welcome the Parts Edge panel.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Next stop on the road trip across the country is the go-to parts girl, also known as Kaylee Filio, the sales and marketing manager at Parts Edge. Kaylee, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Welcome back, and welcome to your panel as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I'm really excited to talk about everything we're going to talk about. These are like my core people that I always like to bring on the panel. So thank you guys for joining.
And very grateful to this panel for all you do for fixed operations, Mike Weldon, Sean Kingry, and Don Andres. And of course, the wonderful Sarah Vantine here as well. So Kaylee, I'm going to step off and turn our panel over to you, and I'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, so much to cover. The last year that we had, 2024, now that we're in 2025, I think the first thing I wanted to cover is supply chain disruptions and how you guys navigated those. I think the main things were strikes happening and continue to happen. So, yeah, let's start with that. What are some strategies, some things? How are you guys overcoming some of the restrictions that they're putting in place? I think, Sean, you had some good topics to share or things to share.
Yeah, I can tell you it hasn't stopped, and it's not because of the strikes anymore. We can't blame COVID anymore. We can't blame it because there's a ship stuck out at sea. And again, 8 stores all being domestic. The problem is not better today than it was a year ago. I can promise you. And I can tell you what, from the domestic side of the OEMs, for whatever reason, and I don't know what the business model is, they're restricting ordering where you're only allowed to order 1 a week. So it doesn't look like you have an order chain problem. We were at a national Chrysler group meeting, to be honest with you, last year, and they're sitting on stage, and they literally ended the meeting. And I'm not here to bash Chrysler or Stellantis; they have their own problems, but they stopped the meeting because it got so out of control. Well, we don't have an ordering problem. Well, you don't have an ordering problem when you're only letting us order 1 a week, and each dealer has 200 to 300 backlogs of exhaust manifolds we can't order. Guys, if there's 2,000 dealerships in the United States and everybody has 300, that math adds up quick. What do you tell a client? We were doing a previous panel with Sarah, and Sarah, thank you for dressing up, by the way, Sarah. But we were doing a panel earlier, and we were talking about, again, I'm not here, a Grand Wagoneer. It's a $120,000 unit. All right, transfer case goes bad. The drive shaft physically welded itself to the transfer case. We call Chrysler, there's none available, there's none in the pipeline, and there's no manufacturer date set. What do you tell a client? And I think the new topic is, and this goes back to our Northwoods visit, and a lot of things spawn from Northwoods, and I'm getting way down a rabbit trail here, and I apologize, but everybody that was on stage, and I know Don was there, I know Sarah was there with her daughter, actually. It wasn't about retention, it wasn't about money, it wasn't about ROI, it was CSI. Everybody who was anybody was talking about CSI in Northwood. And it changed my thinking, by the way, for 2025. My entire business model changed because of that pop-up event. And when you tell a client who has a $120,000 vehicle that they have a transfer case, and you don't have an answer, by the way, you physically can't give them an answer of when you're going to give them a vehicle. And we can go down the trail where they're only reimbursing $40 or $45 a day, and you're not going to rent a Grand Wagoneer from Enterprise for $45 a day. So who's paying the difference at that point? I mean, the parts situation, Kaylee, in my opinion, especially the 3 domestic franchises, is no better today than it was a year ago or 2 years ago. And we have 4 body shops, and body parts are by far worse than that. Waiting for a fender for how long now? Where they're making you go aftermarket, and we all know the fitment on those just doesn't work.
Yeah. So that's a lot. It's like so, and it's not new news. I mean, that's something it's been going on, and it's not getting better. How are you guys navigating those things? It's just the way you're presenting it, it's like there's no solution. There's nothing that we can do.
Well, again, I can tell you, because I don't want to get edited by Ted, we're making a lot of OEMs very angry because we're just sitting on the phones until we get answers. Now you're telling them they got to shut an assembly line down because every one of those parts are already marked for somebody or for a vehicle that's in production. You have to go find me a transfer case that, by the way, is supposed to be built for somebody, because that is the only option. When it comes to body parts, you're going LKQ. I mean, I don't want to plug them or not plug them, but you have no choice. And now we're putting steering racks. That just goes down a whole nother rabbit trail. We're putting steering racks in vehicles and GM vehicles that are aftermarket. And listen, you're talking to a guy who drives a Corvette. I don't want an aftermarket steering rack in my Corvette, but you can't get one from the factory. What other choices do you have? And there are no answers.
There are no answers. Yeah. Mike and Don, do you guys have any perspective on this?
Well, the biggest issue is that we've changed our manufacturing protocol, and a lot of the support vendors can't operate their businesses efficiently and effectively to support ready on time deliveries, which then imposes a problem in the field, which meaning the retail segment of the business. I can date this back. We had problems back. It was domestic brand. Sean's talking domestics, but domestic was a Ford, and Ford had the same problem. My workaround at the time, I had a good relationship with body and assembly engineers, so they were able to still them off the line. Well, they kind of killed that now, so so you can't even do that. But we've run into it with the imports as well. BMW's had some trials and tribulations. Subaru's had some problems, and they just can't manufacture the parts to replace the defective ones that we run across. The other problem that they put us in a rock and a hard spot. They preach and they work on us on CSI and retention. And we said, well, let us put an aftermarket part in this thing until your part becomes available to get this consumer back on the road. Instead, they'll rather let the vehicle sit or it gets bought back. And I just don't think that's a good business model. And I don't think it's going to bode well for us as we go into the future, because it's only going to get tougher as we get more EVs and BEV units. Our lots are only so big. So I think we need to establish some sort of relationship and get an understanding on how to operate our business and become better business partners with the manufacturers.
I think this format, Kaylee, I think it's important as people are listening to this. If there's some people on this Route 66 program right now that has some influence, in other words, is on some advisory committees, right? I mean, there are committees still, dealer committees out there still on the parts side, that they have to hear on these committees this single sourcing, just-in-time inventory has got a major flaw, and it's always this. It's when something goes wrong, they don't have, first of all, they're going to clear all that off their current inventory, right? If they've established that this part is no good. So not only are you, trying to work through an inventory that doesn't exist, they've cleared the shelves, but now you're waiting for engineering to re-engineer it, go through its protocols, go through stamping, and eventually get it produced. And that's all because we went to single sourcing. So this idea of getting the manufacturer to hear from the dealer body, this is a bad strategy. This idea of single sourcing and just-in-time inventory, there is nothing good about it. There's a lot of bad from it. From a dealer standpoint, it's always communication with the customer and letting them up front. One of the problems I think the dealers sometimes do is that they want to defend the manufacturer because they're the partner. But the reality is, in that moment, they need to sometimes tell the truth. Here's where we're at right now. Here's what we can do for you. Here's some options that we can try to figure out for you. But again, those are conversations that you want to have with a customer. But at the same time, Sean is right. When nobody in the country is going to sell you that part because they desperately are holding on to it or can't get it either. So all your networking in the world that you do isn't going to get you that part from another dealer when it's that much of a shortage. But I think getting the word out in our dealer base that says the manufacturer has to hear from these parts managers that says this model doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
I have so many thoughts. I wanted to ask, okay, so one question to think about, and you guys don't have to answer this now, but in a perfect world, what can we what is the solution? I mean, I know we don't want to, OEM is what we want to sell, but is the aftermarket the solution for now? And what can we do, I guess, to track this and get ahead so that the parts are being made, so it's not like, oh crap, we need all these parts all of a sudden? Like, where is the disconnect, and what can happen in the perfect world so that just like a magic wand? I don't know.
Well, I think transparency is one answer for that. I mean, back to the ordering backlog, and to Don's point, Don's exactly right. The one sourcing is what's causing this. And if they don't have a backlog and they're not allowing you to order them, then it's not showing that there's a backlog, which is, again, it's not true. Well, it's causing it's not true. I mean, you do have a problem. And by the way, there's a thing called the internet. I know it's new and nobody knows what it is. It's not like you have to look real hard to find out that there's a problem. Go on, I use Dodge Rams. Go on Dodge Ram and type in manifold. Well, you can read all night long because nobody can get the part. And they're so far down the list that there's no answer. So to answer your question, a manifold, there is an aftermarket option. They're just not letting you use it yet. And to where Don was saying, guys, you're going to have to start looking at aftermarket parts because there's no other choice.
Yeah.
Ironically, the manufacturers have got pretty intelligent by forcing us on these RIM programs. And they were designed to make sure that we had parts in inventory that were in high demand, but they can't even support their own program.
That's another topic.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I just think that we've got to come up with a solution. And I think Don, the point that he made, if there's an advisory board, I've sat on several, and I will tell you, it's kind of tenacious because it's a very defensive conversation that you have with the manufacturer because they don't want to admit that they have a sourcing problem. And then they say, well, we need to do a better job of ordering parts. So we buy all their programs and we still have this issue. So I think that I think if we all band together and have a open conversation and try to get everything out on the table and then say, okay, where do we go from here? And maybe they need to bring in some vendor partners, these support companies. What's creating your issue? You probably find some stuff that you're probably not going to be very happy about because, everybody's driving down margins and most of these guys can't afford to run their business that way.
Yeah, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 relationships, some of us go back a long way. And those were there for a reason, that if you had a bad failure, you had a power steering rack that went out and you had a quota you needed to meet as a tier 2 or tier 1 provider, you bought from your competition. You bought the parts from your competition just to complete that fill order because you didn't want to lose that relationship. So believe it or not, the customer always won in that situation because the parts were found. Right now, people leave the manufacturer and they move to another brand when they run into these kind of problems. All you got to do is look at Jaguar, look at Land Rover and things of that nature, and how many one and dones are there. They love the product, it's beautiful, and they waited 4 months, 6 months for a repair, and so they just moved on. They went to a Lincoln, they went to a Lexus, they went to another brand. That's the biggest fear. We've done everything right in customer relationships, and then they can't come up with the part and they just move on to another manufacturer.
Yeah, that's the biggest fear. And I think to Mike's point, I had a thought about it just seems like because of the restrictions and things, the data is not accurate. So it's causing that to not produce it's like a ripple effect, it seems like. But Sarah, I wanted to loop you in and see if you had any additional questions or if there was something you wanted to bring up as far as the next topic that we're going to talk about.
Yes. So, Sean and Don and Mike have already brought up a lot of really interesting points about what they're seeing, across the industry as it pertains to some of these supply chain challenges. But one of the other pieces that kind of ties into this that we haven't talked about yet is what the consumer is really doing, when it comes to do-it-yourself type of repair. So in Sean's example, when he's talking about this Corvette, Sean, are you then going and looking, if the manufacturer is not participating and helping to restore the part, you want to drive the vehicle. So are you seeing customers that are going online and purchasing parts from digital, retail, in places where either Amazon or eBay or another provider, and then instead of going to the dealership, now they're doing an aftermarket fix just so they can keep driving the car?
It's exactly what's happening, especially to Don's point. They're creating the one and dones. I mean, that's a great line too, by the way, Don. That's what it is. So if I have a vehicle, again, let's take the Grand Wagoneer that I chose to buy a Grand Wagoneer rather than an Escalade, and I can't get a transfer case. You can't give me a rental, or if I do, I got to pay the difference. Am I buying another Grand Wagoneer? No. I'm going to get it fixed, do what I got to do. To your point, Sarah, of a Corvette, you're going to go aftermarket, probably high performance, which, by the way, now you're going to, because then since you're there already, you're going to find other things that they sell. Ooh, I couldn't get one of those widgets at the dealer. And to Don's point, you're creating the aftermarket. It's so funny how history repeats itself. Many, many years ago, Chrysler did a thing called the Get It Back Tour, because we wouldn't do oil changes, we wouldn't do tires, and because 20 years ago, we didn't need to do those businesses. So we didn't do those businesses. Well, guess what? We had to get that business back. We're doing it again. I mean, that's all we're doing is we're repeating ourselves 20 years later in just a higher capacity of it. But I think it's different when you got like a performance part, or you have your family vehicle, again, that you have all your money tied into, that there is no fix for it. You're not going to go to Pep Boys and buy a transfer case for a Grand Wagoneer. I mean, because they don't exist. You're just out of luck. And ultimately, it's the dealer's fault. We all know that, because the dealer's the face of the brand, and they're the ones taking the beating.
So on the subject of parts purchasing, and Mike, Don, and Sean weigh in on this as well, but how can dealers, monitor what they're seeing with these customer trends, or anticipate, some of these challenges that might come up, and pivot the customer to maybe a pre-owned car in their inventory, or something else that they could still service? How would y'all suggest they adjust those strategies?
Go ahead, Mike. If you want to chime in, I can.
Well, that's a very tough question to answer. I mean, pre-owned are just as they're in the same boat as a OEM new if you can't get the parts. The only benefit with a pre-owned, if it's out of factory warranty, you can go aftermarket parts, and you can give that consumer the option. I don't know that we're there yet, but I would tell you that if I was a consumer and I had to elect to get a pre-owned vehicle versus a new vehicle that I intended on buying because they can't support the brand, I'm going to look hard at another brand. It's just not good for the business. We're going to do things, the dealers are going to do things to survive. And we got to get better at a lot of things. But if it's impacting our relationships with the customers and our retention and CSI and ESI, because it also impacts your internal employee, then we're going to have to get creative and come up with a solution on our own if we can't get the support from the manufacturers.
Well, and isn't this, I just had a thought, isn't this kind of like brand elimination? Like, isn't there, I don't know if we can talk about it, but isn't there something going on with Nissan and that whole situation? Like, I don't know.
I think there's a partnership, and Nissan's a great example of part availability issues the last few years, where not only was there delays, they just didn't have quality parts at times. And the end result was that there were a lot of failures, and they were running out of inventory on their service part process. So there's a lot that goes into a manufacturer being successful. And again, it gets back to a customer's loss of confidence. I agree, Mike, that, sometimes buying a vehicle that's a year or two old, the biggest benefit is that there's a number of parts available in the marketplace by then, including, collision yards where there was a front hit, but the perfectly good parts in the backside of the vehicle that they're going to sell. And those are readily available just because of collisions and things of that nature, even though they're just a year old. So yeah, there is something to be said for a vehicle that's over a year old. But, one of the points that you said, Sarah, was there's a lot of people now doing it themselves. We see that in this economic times. And so I think, not to switch gears, but I think a dealer has to be very conscious of that and have some kind of online presence, because ideally the integrity of an OEM part is still the best. We know that because Sean, we've all tried aftermarket at times in our non-manufacturer used car inventory, only to be disappointed that alternator didn't hold up and things of that nature. So, or right out of the box, something didn't work. But
that route, they don't support it too, right? They don't warranty those parts.
Correct. Yeah. But, when you're dealing with the non-manufacturer used car inventory that just has to get there, sometimes we're not always buying them from our local other dealer. We may go aftermarket and things of that nature, and we run into issues sometimes. But I think for us, for that shopper that's online that you mentioned, Sarah, that individuals that do it yourselfer, we want to be in that market. We want to have inventory and priced in such a way that online presence is a positive for us. It sends the right message for when they want to start to look at buying a new car or a used car, and they like our relationship. They like the people that they interact with when they're buying online and maybe coming to the store to pick it up. And things of that nature. And invariably, when you're dealing with parts, they may order it online, and then almost invariably they're going to pick up the phone, call the dealer and say, I want to talk a little bit more about this part. Or maybe they're going to talk to them before they buy it online. So, it's a unique world, the do-it-yourselfers, but we should be in that arena.
I have a thought that can be kind of tricky too. I think if you think about, a counter person and taking those phone calls, I think what I've seen through like forums and things is there's like frustration for the people that are calling in to get the information, but then they don't actually buy. I mean, that's something like, how do you guys navigate that or keep your staff motivated to support those types of calls? Because there are people that do call dealerships just to figure out the part they need, and then they don't get it from the dealership.
Yeah, I will say quickly, and then Sean, you can chime in. The savvy parts guys sometimes put a little bit of fear. Whoa, you're doing that job? Ooh, yeah, you might want to think about having the store take a look at that diagnosis or things of that nature. It's funny how they can sometimes sell the service department with a do-it-yourselfer that's calling in and discussing some problem they have. But at the end of the day, we're in the relationship business. We're in the relationship business. We have to be willing to have conversations with people and build their trust so they talk positively about your store and what you're trying to do to help them get through a difficult time.
I'm going to go down the legal attitude of it. When it comes to a parts person, it's kind of like diagnosing on a service drive. If that parts guy on the phone recommends a widget to fix it and the widget doesn't fix it, it's amazing that customer comes back and wants you to return it. Well, you didn't diagnose it, but you're the one that told me it was broken.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to every parts person does it one time. They don't do it twice.
Yeah. They encourage the service department, don't they?
Very quickly.
And the other thing that you're working with is incentives that the manufacturer puts on staying with OE. And you've got young parts managers that are not as adventuresome, that don't reach out beyond the envelope. We need to develop some protocol to where, the end result is we got to take care of that consumer. I mean, he's going to go to your independent parts houses and everything else, and if they can provide a like part to satisfy his immediate need, they're going to do so. And we need to be the one-stop shop. I mean, that's what we've been fighting for a number of years. And parts, service, or fixed operations depends on each other, and we can't support our shop, then they're going to go to the independents, who in turn is going to go and get a aftermarket component. So, we need to look at these things, because it's a two-edged sword.
Absolutely. There's so much more I think we could cover on this topic, but I feel like we hit the core of it and have some ideas, and hopefully by anyone listening, getting that advisory, getting this out there so that we can start getting some solutions.
This is
It's
a great
not getting
panel.
better, according, it's just almost
And the
getting worse.
dealer, I think the dealer themselves at their dealer meetings can also drive home that point as well too. Dealers have tremendous influence themselves.
True. Very well said. Kaylee, once again, fantastic retail panel with what's happening in our industry. So I want to thank all of you for being with us today. Mike Weldon, amazing information. Thank you. Great insights as well. Sean Kingery, is it still cold up there in Madison, Wisconsin?
It's a blissfully warm 9 degrees, sir. We're great up here.
Oh, okay. Very nice. All right.
No snow. No snow.
All right. But Don, you have snow in Ohio, I think.
Oh yeah. And cold. We got it all.
And Sarah Vantine, thank you so much. Kaylee, if our audience wants to learn more about Parts Edge and reach out, how do they do it? What's the best way?
You can find me on LinkedIn, just Kaylee Filio, or our website, partsedge.com, to learn more. And we do have a lot of resources on there for anyone that wants to know more about parts and inventory management and all that good stuff. So thank you.
And Kelly, thank you for all you do for our industry. You've really brought parts into the forefront here in 2025. So
thank you. Yeah, it's crazy to look back where we started and where we are now.
Right.
So,
I can't imagine the future. So it's going to be so great. So everybody, the Parts Edge panel with us here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Obsessed with creating the perfect inventory? Us too. Parts Edge gives you the tools you need to outpace the competition and provide the highest level of service to your customers. Parts Edge is a powerful tool for parts managers to get the job done faster. Imagine what it was like when the impact wrench arrived. It made mechanics 3 times faster. Getting the job done without the latest technology makes it difficult to keep up. Besides all the other responsibilities you have, you work hard to have all the right parts you need when you need them. Parts Edge was designed by parts people for parts people to make that job a lot easier. Parts Edge saves you 4 to 6 hours every week and can increase your sales by 10 to 20% in just 12 months. Not bad for your bottom line. Take your obsession to perfection with Parts Edge. Call us today to find out what Parts Edge can do for you.
The fastest pit change in a Formula One race took 1.80 seconds. At Blink AI, we say challenge accepted as we take your dealership from zero to hero with our platform that's purpose-built to shift the customer experience into high gear. Unlike solutions that promise efficiency with AI chatbots, Blink AI turns your dealership operation into a profit powerhouse. With Blink AI, you get scheduling solutions that work together to increase your bottom line. It's about turning interactions into actions that drive dealership success. We're talking about intelligent phone automation and seamless scheduling that increases appointments without increased overhead, and workflow automation that eliminates service bottlenecks and boosts staff productivity, and a customer campaign solution that proactively engages customers and increases CSI scores. Blink AI, your dealership's #1 pit crew.
Take a moment now to pull over and pull out your phones to scan the QR code on your screen to vote for the Sean Butler Best Practice Awards that will be announced at the end of the event. Remember, every vote counts, So make sure to make room for the 5 speakers or panelists to join you on your road trip by casting your vote. And remember, you can only vote once. Drive up to our final panel of the day. It's the Dynatron software panel with Maureen Martin.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It is a great honor to present this A-list panel assembled by Dynatron Software. Our great friend Maureen Martin is here. Our panel title today is 2025 Technician Capacity and Forecasting. What a perfect time of year to do that. Maureen, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted. Always love being here, and it's been a privilege of Dynatron to be involved. As you know, Les Silver, our executive chairman, has been a big part of this since the very beginning. So we appreciate you inviting us. Thank you.
Great to see you, and we are very honored to have Les as well involved. It was wonderful to see you at Northwood University earlier this summer, and appreciate you coming up as well.
Yeah, there's nothing better than being around students, right? To reinvigorate us in our business. I love it. And that really kind of plays in a little bit what we're going to talk about today.
All right, I'm going to step out of the way, Maureen. I'm going to let you get things started, and I'll come back on the other side.
Thank you, Ted. Appreciate it. As Ted said, I'm Maureen Martin, and I have the privilege of being our Vice President of Strategic Alliances for Dynatron Software. And it's my privilege to welcome our panel of distinguished partners for Dynatron. And so with me, we have William McCurry. William is the Vice President of Fixed Operations for DGDG out of California. We also have Bill Demery, Corporate Fixed Ops Director for the Tom Wood Auto Group out of Indiana. And congratulations, Bill. You are recognized as a certified partner of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. So congratulations on that. It's a really huge honor. Also with us, we have Yaz Banagovic. He is our Corporate Fixed Ops Director for the Sioka dealerships out of Pennsylvania. And then with us is Joe Hall. Joe Hall is the Fixed Ops Support Manager for Hudson Automotive Group. He is here, and Jason Yates sends his very best as well. He is off today doing some very exciting growth for the group, and it's just a privilege. All of these groups are represented not only in the Dynatron family, but on our advisory council. So we have a lot of opportunity to talk. And so this time of the year, it's just from coast to coast. It's talking about coming into Q4, and critically important to that is the 2025 capacity and forecasting, with a specific emphasis on something we can all agree on, which is technicians. And not only the recruitment and retention of them, but all of the critical things that go into your forecasting. So I thought really we'd start talking about just sort of what might be something specific in this area that speaks to you and your group. And so, William, I'm going to go ahead and start with you, if I could, to talk a little bit about something that really comes into play with your forecasting at this time of the year.
Yeah, thanks, Maureen. I appreciate the time and the invite. Yeah, I think the thing for our group, again, we're in California. The cost of living is unique here compared to most places in the country. And so I think one of the things that we've realized over the last several years that's really important is us really paying attention to technician wages. We do market studies constantly as it relates to labor rates and what we're charged, but I think in years past we didn't do a great job of that as it relates to what we pay our technicians. And so over the last probably 3 years, we've been hyper aggressive, not only with retention, but with our outbound approach, with gaining and adding additional technicians as it relates to their pay. And I use a joke with our team that I say, and if you're all married on this call, you can probably appreciate this. But if you wait to buy your wife flowers until she says, "How come you never buy me flowers?" you've already lost the game. And so, Yes. And so I look at that from a technician standpoint. If you're waiting for them to get poached, or you're waiting for them to come ask you for a raise, you're behind the 8 ball already, and you're playing defense instead of offense. And as a big football fan that I am, it's a lot more fun to play offense than it is to play defense. And so that's something that we've really been aggressive. We look at what the market is. We want to pay 10% above market. It's really done well for us from a strategy of being able to not only retain our own techs, but be able to attract other ones. Because the best, you can do everything, every advertising, every forum that you can do to get techs, but your best advertisement is the techs that you currently have. And so if they're being paid well and we're doing a good job of taking care of our people, they see other techs at training, or different events. And that's really what brings, people into the fold. And one of the things that I've also stressed to our teams is, we've all been in the situation where a tech gives notice or leaves or moves, and then we go into scramble mode, or we can, about trying to replace the technician. And the example that I like to give our managers is, if a technician leaves and you go to place an ad and somebody comes in and you have blindfolds on, so you don't know it's the same guy that just left your organization. He applies, his skills, what his efficiency is, his capabilities, what type of employee he is. One of the things that I tell my people is that you're going to pay that guy that you're hiring now that you're in a spot where you need somebody really bad, more than you're paying the guy that's already there, that what you have, as opposed to the unknown. You really need to circle back and reevaluate what you're paying your teams. And honestly, I'd rather pay a little more than a little less, and make sure that we foster that continuing culture of longevity with our technicians.
Excellent. Thank you, William. Appreciate it. Would anybody else like to add something related to technician pay?
I think William's spot on. That just really hits home. And I think that from a fixed ops group, this is something we all kind of focused on, in the last 3 to 4 years. And that 10% is something I hear a lot in different 20 groups and different focus groups, that we have to be 10% over market. And the reason is, why would they want to work for you versus the neighbor? And William, you're spot on. Why not pay them now? And that's something we've developed, that culture as well as a group. We pay now, and we went across the board, all 284 technicians at one point, and we right-sized everybody. And the key is, I think what William said is you got to stay on top of that. You can't just do it once and forget about it. It has to be a continued focus. And certainly with the Dynatron software, it's easier to see, because you're looking at the ELR per op codes, and you're looking at your tech costs and your gross profits, and you can certainly stay in line with that and get exactly what you need to get, and taking care of your team at the same time.
Thank you. Yaz or Joe, would you like to add anything?
I wanted to say I agree completely. Checking in with the technicians, a one-time thing means nothing. You really have to stay on top of their wages. The Dynatron EVIS reports are a great tool to see that. We went through a lot of growth mode in the last 3 years, going up into 50-some stores now. So it's really interesting when you get into these new markets you haven't been in before. It educates you very quickly on what technicians are making, quite frankly, what everybody's making. Another thing, too, I wanted to add, we've been talking about this quite some time, but we want to, for 2025, start a yearly technician bonus. And I think what both gentlemen were saying, how can we be the best in town, right? Why are we the most fun, most exciting to work for? So we want to do an 11-month production bonus. Nothing to do with their pay plan. And, they either hit it 1 month or they don't on average. And the payout would be like beginning of December, right before Christmas. And similar like a GM style pay plan, I think that would definitely be a game changer. I don't see anybody really doing that. And talk about creating a good spark, in the community between the techs and all that, and really all the employees. So we're working on that as well. But I wholeheartedly agree. You really have to take care of them. I prefer playing offense as well. And you really have to stay on top of that. It comes down to management, obviously, And thanks to the great support and the software that we have, it's easier to do so.
Thank you. Yes. Joe, Joe gets the privilege of going from what I call cradle to grave, recruitment, training, retention of everything within the Hudson. Is there something you'd like to add specifically on TechPay before we go on to the next topic?
Yes, and thanks for having me here. It's an honor to be here. Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned that bonus, that yearly bonus as far as production. That is something that we actually implemented just over a year ago, where a technician, depending on his level or her level, can earn up to $1 for every hour they've produced across a calendar year. And it has honestly been a game changer for our organization. So I would encourage you and anyone else to implement something like that. Also, that the transparency for pay, the pay scale for technicians, regardless of their level, it's all based on their training. That's something that we've worked on over the last 3.5 years, almost 4 years now since I've been with Hudson, is having that pay transparency and then trying to close that gap between the manufacturers, because we do see different pay rates from, say, like a Ford or a Chevrolet technician to a Honda or Toyota, more import drive technicians. So trying to close that gap a little bit, and then that transparency has been huge.
Love it. Love the innovation too. Thank you all for sharing that. So one thing you all do have in common is you have been going through big growth curves and acquisitions, and that brings some of its own unique. Bill, let's touch upon, I know you really have a passion around training and the growth. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we do. And again, it kind of goes back to our hiring techniques and holding technicians, and can we retain our technicians? So we started an initiative really strong actually in 2020 and started documenting how hard it is to find techs. And quite honestly, I got tired of hearing, and I've been trying to find an A tech for 6 months. I can't seem to find them. And my point is, you're not. And if they've left somewhere, there's a reason they left, or unless they're moving, into town. So we went into kind of full speed train our own and started recognizing mentors in our shops, which are typically a lot of our aging out technicians, and put bonus plans together for those that can train our younger techs as we brought them in. We've teamed up with many of our local, schools, like I think just about everybody has. We have the career colleges and the high schools and the shop classes. We do the Boy Scouts of America. We do tours with them. We recently signed up with another organization in our county that allows us to bring juniors in high school. And this is like freshmen. You might not even heard about this one. So we have juniors in high school working in our stores now that are getting college credits that can be used when they graduate. And then this will go toward an Ivy Tech or a Lincoln Tech college. We have the entire county. We have a waiting list for it. We're planning on really blowing this up. And this is, again, our future techs. And just growing our own just has seemed to be the turning point, for us, if we can get away from the constant advertising and, recruiting the same techs everybody else is. And then once you get them kind of in our infrastructure, like William mentioned, we have to pay them. Yaz had mentioned about doing things different than anybody else. We do a fixed ops banquet twice a year. And in that twice a year, Maureen's I'm really excited you're going to come and see it.
I'm going to be there.
We do it twice a year, and we have goals set up for all of our productive technicians, service advisor, and parts. And twice a year, they get to come to our hangar. We own the aviation center. So we get the hangar together. We have about 350 people that'll show up, have a catered dinner, and we give away like thousands of dollars, typically 40, 45,000 in cash, tons of door prizes, just have a really big party and celebrate them for their victories and what they've done for us to help us grow our fixed ops teams. And I think by doing these little things different, recruiting our own, training our own, the Tomwood way, not the way, the competitors are doing it, but how we do it, how we do business and take care of our clients and our guests. We've been really successful with this. We've grown from 207 techs in our small little group to 284 techs this last month. So our retention numbers are getting so much better, and we're continuing to keep these guys and growing them. And now we have lane managers, we have tech trainers in our stores, and they're just shop foremans really working with and kind of pushing their knowledge down to the younger team.
I've seen you apply the same thing to service advisors, those experienced ones, and trying to help them carry on that knowledge. So that's really impressive. How about anybody else in regards to specifically around training and the growth? Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to reiterate what Bill said, I think the mentoring, from the senior techs to the entry level techs or the mid level techs, and then I think the other thing that's just really important is to give them that written path of how they can get to increase, but not only their skill set, but to also increase their pay. So most of our training has a direct impact on their pay. And so I won't say that everyone is motivated to do the self-studies or to do some of the training, but when you put the plan in front of them of if you do A and B and C, then it gets you to X, Y, and Z. And I think, being able to clearly spell that out for them, I think it was Joe that mentioned about the transparency in what you're doing, that I think that that's so important to be able to show them, not only, where you can get to, but how you can get there. And I think, again, all of that just goes back and helps reinforce the longevity and the growth of the technicians.
Thank you.
Think, everybody on this panel are going to have something very similar. Clearly, we all agree. In our organization, all of our directors in every category, every section, they were advisors at one point. So career path is so, and I know we're speaking about technicians, but really, Bill mentioned it as well with advisors and things like that. It goes such a long way. Fortunately, we have our corporate trainer as well that constantly keeps re-educating on our process, which is pay incentive as well. It helps it's the glue. It helps keep us together. But growing your own people for your culture is the most important thing. I couldn't agree anymore. Like I said, I'm sure we all have something very similar, it sounds like. And the fact that, like for our organization, that we grew from 7 rooftops to 53, all those people were advisors and salesmen at one point that have grown with us to help protect the growth.
Love it. And obviously that has to come into play, right? When you're looking at your capacity and forecasting is having that plan for each one of your people, right? And then you take it by the size of your group. You've got to utilize tools and you've got to utilize construction of resources within your own organizations to make that happen. I love it. Joe, did you want to add something?
Sure. So to the development side, for technicians, in a perfect world, my team would love it if we only had to put up job posts for entry-level technicians, right? And we didn't have the service director that calls us and says, hey, I just lost a master tech. I need another one yesterday. That's always going to be there to some degree. But the more we focus on that development and helping this younger generation understand that there's a lot that they can do within this career, and then there's a lot they can do beyond that. It's not just about being a technician for 30, 40 years. There's plenty of leadership opportunities and things beyond being a technician, and helping them realize that those opportunities are out there, and then seeing what their goals are and what they would like to do with their own career path, and then trying to individualize that career path for them has been key for us.
Talking about career pathing, which comes into play with everything you do in forecasting, right? Are you finding that technicians are really wanting to know what the career path is, like what separates you from everyone else, right? You've grown your own. We need to do it by necessity, first of all, right? Depending on the markets we're in. But how is that coming into play in your forecasting for next year?
Sure. So, yeah, as far as career path, well, is going in and, for example, forecasting the next year, it's such a critical part. Like fortunately for us, we have some really, really cool stories with employees that have been with us 10 to 30 years. And these employees were technicians at one point. And one became a service manager. And we have 4 Ford stores, and he runs the best performing one out of all of them. Landslide, right? Friendly competition. We have another gentleman that is also at a Ford store. He, 30 plus years wrenching. It was time to slow down a little bit, and he actually took the lead of the mobile service. Started off as an advisor a little bit, and he's now the manager for that. Our mobile service business through Ford at that store is almost quadruple versus the other one. Because of his 30 years in experience and everybody he's known and all the people and fleet businesses he's met, he protects that so well. So how does that affect like forecasting? When we started this, like beginning of the year, I could have never fathomed that Ford mobile service was going to grow that much in that store in 90 days. So yeah, it takes a big role into the forecasting for next year because, dare I say you have some new income that you're looking at, you're finding you didn't know you had new revenue. But on the career side, career path, we're so big on growing our people for reasons like this. They take care of our employees and the stores so well. The other gentleman I was referring to, he was a technician at first, and then he was an advisor, and he became manager. The way he can connect with those technicians on their shop productivity and what hours they have and the conversations he can hold with them that Wednesday morning on that 3-day call-in, they're pretty powerful. And obviously they go a long way. So again, I think I mentioned it earlier, since I've been here, this is my 15th year. We've had 6 or 7 rooftop that started to fast forward now to 53 and more pending. The importance of a career path. And I'm just sharing, 1-2 examples here of it. Myself as one, and I could keep going, but that's not the point. The point is the message here of how we do it and how important it is to us. And it starts with Mr. Sioka first. We definitely treat it to the nth degree that more than anything else. And obviously we use the proper reporting and all the best, latest tools to help us stay efficient. But our people are number one asset, and we really have never steered clear of that or stayed away from that. We've always stayed towards that path, that message through general manager, service manager, parts, and so forth. We all pretty much chase the same route with that career path, that growth, and that's growing our own people.
Thank you.
One of the things that we do as far as forecasting and then capacity, so number of technicians that we need in each store, we look at their service market share, and then we look at their average ROs per month over the course of a calendar year. Depending on what their service market share is, if they are at or above 100, with the growth mindset, we add 15% to that RO count. If they are below 100% service market share, we add 20% to that RO count. Without getting into all the granular details of the mathematical equation, how it comes down to, essentially that RO count turns into a number of advisors, which gives us the number of technicians that we need in each shop, and in order to be able to continue to grow their business. And then we run into issues with shop capacity. Obviously, there's only a certain number of bays, so getting creative with scheduling and things like that to try to help put more bodies in those bays to be able to produce those hours and get that RO count with that growth that we're looking for.
Well, I always love to talk about mathematics and data, so you're talking my heart. I think that was a really big part of it. Really came from our advisory council that really helped to drive the capacity and forecasting through Dynatron, because you talk about all the things you have there is the career pathing, and you need to know when your technicians are going to be at training, right? If they're going to ASC for a week, you've got to figure out how you're going to make up that revenue during that time, and how you guys have been able to use that to be able to also project when you need another service advisor. So I have heard resoundingly from the advisory council how helpful that has been, particularly in the hours you used to spend on spreadsheets. So appreciate it very much. As we close out this segment, and we really, it's just in our hearts right now, we've got to really be looking at the industry as a whole. We're going through a lot, and then the technicians are that foundation on the fixed ops for our revenue and our profitability. If there was one thing that you would want to share with someone out here who's listening, or maybe not as seasoned as you are in the business, what might be something you want to share with them to be thinking about for 2025? Bill, I'll start with you.
Yeah, 2025, I look at every year, and I like the 15% numbers being thrown out. There's some numbers I usually share out as well. That's kind of what we're looking for is a growth in the hours and the ROs that we're sending out. So pay attention to the data. Don't get caught up in the noise. There's a lot of noise out there. Turn it off. Don't turn the TV on, especially this year. But it's focus on what we can fix. We're a fixed ops team. That's what we do. Variable is down. It's going to continue to fall down. And man, that's when we get invited to the Thanksgiving table. We finally made it. It's like we're sitting at the big boy table now, and it's up to us to get our absorption numbers up. It's up to us to carry the 100% and get our numbers there to carry the stores. And that's what we do well. That's why we're in this business. That's why we're all in the roles that we are, because we're so passionate about it. So fix what you can fix. Don't focus on what you can't, and just keep plugging away. It's fun. Every month's a new number, and next year's a whole new set of numbers. So I'm excited.
I love it. Joe, how about you?
Thank you. So a big part of my job is to advocate for technicians. Being a former technician myself, so it's as you mentioned, Bill, the passion that we all have. If I could give one piece of advice is, someone mentioned earlier the open door policy. One thing that we stress on all of our stores and the leadership in those stores is a true open door policy is when you invite someone in to talk to them, not just saying come in when you want to. Actually invite them in, go and talk to your technicians, hear what they have to say, truly listen to them, and then kind of be that sounding board, and then build your career paths or your capacities, your forecasting, whatever it looks like based off of that.
Thank you. Yes, how about you?
Yeah, to what Bill was saying, it's fixed operations for a reason, right? So you can always guard that math. Obviously, that we have the software. We mentioned that earlier. But as far as what's gonna happen in the next 365, you really have to be in tune with your people. And yes, I think Bill mentioned sales is tough right now, and we also chase that 100% absorption because we are doing it in a lot of the stores, so we know it's possible, and we want to protect the business the best way that we can, right? Like with how difficult it is in sales right now, I think without putting the pressure on, I think it's okay to put everything on our shoulders right now. It's our time to shine, and obviously do it thoroughly. But again, to what Joe was saying, you have to be in tune with the people in that store. Technicians, advisors, you got to know what's going on in their heads. And we like to say the same, similar with the open door policies. If you have a problem, please come with a solution every time. But I think your employees have to be comfortable to come with a solution in the first place.
William, want to finish this out?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to kind of piggyback on what everybody else said, I think the two important things for us is one is just to constantly reinvest in your people, the numbers and metrics and everything that we focus on. And I think we can get, paralysis by analysis sometimes with all of the numbers and fix, but just really refocusing on your people. And then I think the other message that we've tried to stress in our group all year is not to get complacent. Like fixed ups is up across the board because sales is down, interest rates are high, people are keeping their cars. I'm not saying that we don't deserve the wins that we're getting. We definitely do. But, right now, sales is sort of in that tough span. And I think, fixed ops is coming out smelling like a rose, and that pendulum swings very swiftly. And so I think it's important that we just make sure that we double down on making sure that we're taking care of our people. And if we do that, then they'll double down on taking care of our guests. And ultimately, that's where the magic happens.
Well, I have to say, I have the privilege of working with all of your groups. And I will say what underlines all of it is the culture. You have built a culture and you utilize all the tools that you have. And we can't be thankful enough for you for joining us today on the Fixed Ops Roundtable for this panel on 2025 capacity and forecasting with our technicians.
What a great panel, Maureen. And again, the talent on here, just A-list. Thank you, everybody, for everything. I took a lot of notes, Maureen.
Good. I love it.
Joe Hall, thank you. First time on the roundtable. Appreciate you very much being here with us. Yaz, great job. Okay. Loved the information. William McCurry, again, a lot of notes. Okay. A lot of great information. And Bill Demery, always a pleasure. Okay. To have you here with the roundtable. So much information out of that Tom Wood organization. Everybody, if you want to learn more about Dynatron Software, you could visit them online at dynatronsoftware.com. So much they do for the industry. This is the cream of the crop here on this panel. And Maureen, it just keeps getting better and better for fixed ops.
Well, we appreciate it. And thanks for all you do, Ted. I mean, you bring us all together, and we always take notes on every panel we watch. So thank you so much for the opportunity today.
Everybody, the Dynatron Software A-list panel here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Opportunities for revenue growth are out there, and they're closer than you think. The problem is most service departments lack the time, software, and data to see these opportunities. They're in the dark. That's where we come in. We help shed light on revenue growth opportunities hidden within your data. Dynatron gives you the tools, coaching, and knowledge to maximize your service department revenue. From optimizing labor rates on maintenance and repairs to helping with manufacturer warranty labor rate and parts markup, our training and software gets you the most from your data. We illuminate these revenue opportunities with 3 fundamental solutions powered by our ROI suite and expert coaching. Price Smart. Our Price Smart solution drives additional revenue through price optimization. Charging the perfect price for services maximizes revenue while maintaining retention. Pricing compliance. Holding service advisors and technicians accountable to avoid costly mistakes that can lead to significant ELR and retention erosion. And parts and labor warranty filing. Price optimization and compliance prior to filing maximizes the process, which leads to larger revenue opportunities. Where other companies just file, we maximize and file. Sell Smart. Our Sell Smart solution is a customized, dealer-specific, technology-enabled sales training program for your service advisors and management team. It focuses on improving each advisor's revenue-generating potential with continuous improvement. Small but consistent changes add up to big results. Market Smart. With Dynatron's Market Smart solution, we analyze your service department data to develop custom, multi-channel marketing campaigns that target existing and new customers. We guide additional traffic to your service drive, resulting in tangible ROI. Powering these solutions is our ROI suite and expert coaching. We take your repair order data, process it through our proprietary algorithms, curate new data, and combine to find new insights. Then, our expert coaches guide you through our proven turnkey process to discover new opportunities and deliver results, ultimately seeing a 5x to 15x ROI each year you partner with Dynatron. Managing your service department is hard enough. You don't need another vendor. You need a long-term partner. Don't stay in the dark. Accelerate your service department revenue today. Visit DynatronSoftware.com.
As our day comes to a close on Route 66, remember to pull out your phones and vote for the Sean Butler Best Practice Awards that will be announced at the end of the event. We're fueling up for day 4 of the Fixed Ops Roundtable Route 66 road trip tomorrow at 9 a.m. Until then, we'll see you on the Mother Road.